Okay. What about now, guys? Is it working? Let me know on the YouTube. Second attempt. Well, thanks to the few people who didn't end up joining on the other ones, because no sound. Okay, cool. We're sorted now, though. Is it working now, guys? Yes. Working on Insta. Working on... Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Okay, we're sorted. Let me just quickly give you the recap of the information. Apologies there, guys. Iran's basically proposed a 3-stage plan. This is according to Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera is basically a Qatari media, so watch out for that. Check out for that. It could be fake news. So obviously, you know, take it with a grain of salt. We have, and so we're going to break down the deal. But remember, we've got on today, we've got former CIA agent Larry Johnson coming on. We have Dimitri Lascaris coming on. He's essentially a journalist who went on the ground in Lebanon and went on the ground in Iran just now, a few months ago. With Iran only a few weeks ago. And then we have Mohamad Makawi, who's on the ground in Lebanon. I think these things were very important to get these people on in order to figure out what's going on. So Iran's 3-stage plan, which allegedly they've proposed to the US, it is end the war in 30 days, including in Lebanon, gradually opening of the Strait of Hormuz, lift the US blockade, US military withdrawal from Iran's borders, and Iran to clear the mines. That's the first stage. Then they say the second stage. The second stage is complete freeze on uranium enrichment for 15 years. After 15 years, they can resume at 3.6%. No storage of enriched uranium, no dismantling of nuclear infrastructure, sanction relief, and frozen asset release. And then the third stage is Iran and Arab strategic dialogue to build regional security architecture and non-aggression commitment, which will cover Israel. So those are the different parameters of what they say in the deal is. Iran says the US has responded to its 14 points and they're going to be reviewing it. And then the Iranian foreign minister said the American side represented its opinion to the Pakistani side regarding our proposal, and we will discuss and respond to it. Iran's 14-plan proposal focused exclusively on ending the war, and there is absolutely no place for the nuclear issue in these points. So they seem to suggest that there isn't a stage 2. But just so you know, in the nest, guys, I'm going to put 2 things. We've got obviously the Substack, you've seen that. But in addition to that, I'm putting... what else am I putting? In addition to the Substack, we are putting the video for the X Live as well. So if you can retweet that, there's a few things I want you to retweet. And also the link to the YouTube, the Substack. I didn't put the Instagram in, but maybe I should have. Okay, so that is that. I'm just going to check everything's how it's going, how it looks. And then we're ready to go. Hopefully we'll get the first person in. And it should be awesome. Okay. Okay, it does say I'm live on Substack, so that's pretty cool. Okay, sweet. Not many people, but we're just starting off and we didn't really promote it and we're very small on there. How do you know if someone's live on... No. How do you know when someone's live on Insta? Because it says I'm live on Insta, but then I've seen loads of people say join, but okay. Maybe we could figure that out some other time. Okay, cool. Anyway, we're live everywhere, so that should be pretty cool. Don't know how good it is, but brilliant. Working on YouTube as well. Excellent. Okay, guys, if anybody on YouTube knows how Instagram works, we are live on there, but I'm not sure what the situation is with it. So we're just waiting for Dimitri to come on. He should be coming on any minute now. Yeah, that's right. He should be coming on any minute now. Retweet, reshare. Let everybody know we're live. That would be awesome. Does anybody know? Like, this is kind of... Does anybody know how to check if someone's on Insta Live? Because it's saying that people are joining the Insta Live. But it's really weird because it says only a small number, but then it says join. It keeps saying join, 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 joined. So I'm unsure. Maybe someone on Insta can let me know how they figured out that they were joining and how to join, and maybe they can figure it out. So if someone can let me know, that would be awesome. Okay. Lots to speak about and lots to get through. We're going to be having our guest coming on, Dimitri Lascaris. I'm going to talk about this then in the meantime while the guest is coming on and the deal. And look, my opinion on this. I know it's going to be controversial. Apologies that it may upset you guys, upset some of you guys. I don't think it's a good deal. I don't think it's a... one second. I don't think it's a good deal. I think it's a very bad deal. And I'll explain to you why. If you're agreeing, and I get with negotiations, there's some checks and balances and various other things. But if you're agreeing to a scenario where you're going to have zero enrichment for 15 years, just think about where the world is, how the situation is very difficult when it comes to energy resources, and nuclear energy is very important, both in terms of your internal infrastructure, as well as if you use it for medical or various other things. And so if you're basically creating a scenario where you're not going to use any nuclear energy for 15 years, you're not going to be allowed to use any nuclear energy for 15 years, you're going to severely hamper yourself. You're going to be well behind the rest of the world. That's the first problem. Having nuclear energy is a sovereign right. They're basically saying that they're going to be 0% for 15 years and a complete block. And they claim this is the Iran's proposal. If it is, this is major capitulation on the enriched uranium. Iran said that they've not discussed the enriched uranium, but I'm just letting you know what the claims are so you're well aware and cognizant of what's going on. No storage of enriched uranium. So they can't even store any of the enriched uranium. Those are the major problems. And the third thing is strategic dialogue with the Arab nations. Well, again, one needs to look at the parameters of that, because these are the countries that help facilitate the attacks on you. So can you really trust these countries? Can you really believe that what they're saying is legitimate? They did include that the end of 30 days war, and Lebanon is included in there, which we know the Israelis would never ever accept. So those are kind of the deals. So I'd say, largely speaking, it doesn't really say who has control. It does say Iran's going to have the control of the Strait of Hormuz, and they'll gradually open it. But other than that, it doesn't. So it says that. So I guess for me, the only negative is you're basically giving up your nuclear enrichment. Based on what Al Jazeera said, this is what their claim is. What is going on? Let me ask. How come this guy's not on? One second. Just texting Dimitri, because he should be joining us any second now. I am checking to see if he comes on. If you're on Substack, let your friends and family know about it. We did put out another article today on Substack. It is on the Strait of Hormuz. It demonstrates that the Americans have zero control, zero impact on who goes in and out of the Strait of Hormuz. And that people are basically able to navigate through the Strait of Hormuz however they want and in whichever manner they want. And the Americans aren't stopping them. The article demonstrates that around 200 vessels have gone through. Iranian vessels, Chinese vessels, Russian vessels, even vessels of American allies have been allowed through the Strait of Hormuz. So who is the Strait of Hormuz really blocking? Who is the Strait of Hormuz really stopping? And the answer to that is no one. They've basically stopped, allegedly, they've commandeered about 4 or 5 different vessels. They claim that they've stopped about 12, and they've named those 12s. I've explained this in the article. But overarchingly, the vast majority of vessels are just going through the Strait of Hormuz. Nothing is being stopped. And so the question mark becomes, if nothing is being stopped pertaining to what goes through the Strait of Hormuz, then what is the American blockade but a facade? And what it's essentially doing is still giving control of the Strait to Iran without having complete navigation of the Strait, because many of these vessels are having to take specific routes, and I explain what the routes are, what these vessels are taking in order to make sure that they're not stopped by the Americans. And you've basically got carte blanche of what goes in and out of the Strait of Hormuz when it comes from the Iran's perspective. Also, it explains, like, for example, the vessel in Japan from going to Japan. So Iran made a deal with Japan. They agreed for the vessel to go through. And so the question is, they agreed for the vessel to go through. And why would they stop it? How could they stop their own allies? If they were to stop their own allies, it would be a national incident. And so when you take all of these things into consideration, as we say in the UK, the United States of America is snookered. They don't have a blockade. They can escalate, but if they were to escalate, what do? They could do more of the same, maybe in more ferocious manner, because they've got a few more. They've got, like, what was the new missile they've got is the Dark something missile. They've got 8 of them. They can use that, but again, 8. They've only got 8, so yeah, you can cause destruction, but you have a limited amount. So they could do more of the same. They can escalate into ground invasion. Everybody's confirming that if they were to do a ground invasion, many people would die, many people would be killed, many people would be harmed. So that's the second problem with that. The third problem, or the third option is, so you got escalate, ground invasion, more of the same, which is bombing Iran for another few weeks. Again, maybe they can go for another month. Looking at what they've built up, you could probably say they went for 39 days the first time. They could probably go for another 30, 39 days, but that would be completely wiping out the entire American inventory of defense interceptor missiles, THAADs, Park 3, and then your offensive weapons. You'd be running out of Tomahawks. You'd have enough JASSMs and JDAMs, but there'd only be a few in that region. So you're essentially putting yourself in a situation where either you agree to, first of all, is you escalate. Escalate is either you continue bombing, but in the same manner you did previously. The other one is ground invasion. Ground invasion not possible. Escalating in the same manner puts you in a situation where you're going to just run out of everything within a month. And as long as Iran can continue taking the punches, like Muhammad Ali did, remember, where he took the hits and then he just knocked out his opponent, Iran could do that, and basically it would be completely the end of the American empire. China could go in, there'd be no support of Ukraine. It would be completely decimation for Americans. And the other two options are you make a deal and you don't have these strict conditions in the deal where essentially you're so you don't have these strict conditions where essentially, there's some kind of movement. Now I'm looking at this deal and it looks like this deal has been constructed, and this is from Iran though. So, I mean, I don't agree with this deal by Iran, but Iran's essentially saying, we get everything, but we're going to give you the nuclear. So that'll give Trump a major victory. But I think giving nuclear up is such a major mistake. It's like giving up your sovereign right. The ability to produce nuclear weapons is very, very important. And to give that away, I don't think is a smart decision or a smart move to make. So that's the other option. The last option, which has been purported by people like Trita Parsi, who again is a great journalist, we need to get him on again this week, is to walk away. Walk away would be you leave Iran in control of the Strait of Hormuz, you leave Iran in control of being able to enrich uranium, but you don't remove the sanctions. And so you're left with a situation, in my view, where you give Iran a lot of power. They have the ability to enrich uranium more, and they should, in my view, they should get to a nuclear bomb. I think this is a big error that they never did. The other option is Iran will have complete control of the Strait of Hormuz. They'll be able to make deals with a lot of these countries that circumvent America and almost hide it as well. So these countries, let's say someone like Japan, doesn't get in trouble with the United States of America. The other option, and so that would be walking away. Now, in my view, Trump would be lambasted for that. This would be like a major loss. But the question becomes, will Trump mind that? Will he accept that? I think this would be too much for him. Too much for him to accept, because it would be a major failure. But there are some commentators who believe that actually he is such a good orator. His base is so enamored with him that in reality it would not make a difference. And for me, I don't think so. I think if you looking at mainstream media, I was watching, for example, CNN recently, and a lot of these more left-wing channels, the non-Trump channels, and they've been lambasting him really badly about the loss. So I think they're gonna it's gonna be a tough one for him, because how can he claim victory? I'm just looking because the guest is meant to be coming on 10 minutes ago. He's not turned up, and he actually messaged me an hour ago and said, "Are we still doing it?" Or I was gonna relax and open the space at 8. So shout out to my boy Rathbone. Much love to Rathbone. I see him in the chat. Everyone, if you're not following Rathbone, you got some serious problems. He is an amazing analyst. He has great guests on. He does great analysis. And he's full on bants. Bants translated to Americans means he's funny. He's hilarious. So make sure you're following Rathbone. His channel on YouTube, you guys can see it. It's Rathbone with an extra E. And his channel on his page on X is _Rathbone. So make sure you're following him. We really appreciate him. I'm not as technical as you, Rathbone, so I need to figure out how to show this on the screen, which I'm slowly learning. So I'll show it when I'm able to learn to do so. But we're just waiting for this guest. Let me see if I can figure it out, actually. But it's just that I always feel like if you go off this, it doesn't look as good. But let's see. Share screen. I'm sure I'm doing something. Wait, actually, let me see if I can do it on here. Share screen. Let me test it with this actually first. Okay. This one here. Oops. So, and I don't know how it'll look on the face of the other channels, but let's see. Right. How does that look to YouTube, guys? How does that look? Let me check on X actually, because I can see X straight away with this. Because if that works, then we can show. Well, I can't see anything working. Can you guys see anything? Okay. What about now? Okay, I think that's working. And yeah, I think we've kind of figured it out. Yeah, cool. So I think I figured out how to do that. So we can do that next time. Okay, so guys, make sure you're following Rathbone on there. And actually, while I'm there, actually, this is wrong one. And we're just waiting for Dimitri Lascaris to come on. So obviously, I'm going to give him another couple of more minutes, and then I'm going to go through the news because there's still lots of news that we need to go through. So yeah, just wait on a couple of seconds, and then we will go through the news. Okay. Okay. There you can see it. Make sure you're following him. Make sure you are following him. Rathbone. And yeah, make sure you're following him on there. And what else? And then make sure you're following our channel. Guys, this is the YouTube channel. This is where we interview people as well. So yeah, that will be really good. That's cool. Now we know how to do that. We could do more content like that. Brilliant. Okay, so in terms of going back to the news, I need to go through the news. And actually, now looking at that, I could probably show you guys the news and go through it in that way. That's probably better. And Dimitri's still not here. So the person we're meant to be interviewing is still not here. Where is he? Maybe he's got coming. Okay. So in the meantime, actually, let me go through the news with you guys, and then you'll see what the crack is. Let me take that one off. Okay. So we're going through the news. All the news for today we're going to be going through. That's what we're doing right now. Okay, sweet. Hopefully that looks decent. How does that look on the other ones? I bet it looks a bit thin because... Oh, they can't even see it. Can they? Why does Insta say so many people joined, but then it only shows a few people watching? Anyway. Okay, so I'm going to go through the news with you guys. And you can actually see the video of the news. The visuals of it. Okay, that one there. I wrote, Iran made more than 5 billion total victory. That's in my Substack article, which explains how Iran, during this blockade, has made $5 million. Yes, $5 million. Iran's bagging it. Iran's doing well. So this blockade is only harming the US allies. The only people being harmed is US allies. And so if you're a US ally, you need to be thinking twice. Do you want to be an ally of a country where they don't care about you? They don't care about how well you're doing. They don't care how things are going. They don't care that someone like Japan is on its knees. You don't care that someone like South Africa is on its knees. Iran's doing well. Iran's allies are doing well. So the only people who have a problem, and US is doing well. They won't be later because they're using so much supply up. But at the moment, they're doing good. Russia's doing good. So the only people who are being harmed by this is the United States of America. Sorry, did I say 5 million? It's not 5 million. It's $5 billion. Correct. Thanks for the clarification in the chat. If I said million, it was not million. It's billion. Yes, $5 billion. And so US allies, whether it's the Gulf states, but obviously you know my view on them. They're too cooked. They need to wake up. They need to walk away from the American control of their nations. They need to be self-sufficient. They need to be self-sustaining. So Gulf states are being harmed. This is why the UAE is trying to do the credit line. This is why they left OPEC. They're desperate. They want to sell their oil as fast as possible, even though they don't have a huge amount of oil. They want to get there. They want to sell it as quick as possible. So that's difficulty in terms of their allies. Japan, major problems. South Korea, major problems. Taiwan, major problems. So if you look at what's happening with the closure of the Strait, Trump himself, he's making bag. He don't care. He's making so much money. When he makes an announcement and he knows that announcement's going to cause the price of oil to increase, he's put his long in. When he makes an announcement saying he's going to bomb Iran, he's already put his short in. So he's making billions. I think a guy who was managing his portfolio, I was reading his tweet and he said, look, I'm managing all of Trump's portfolio. Since he's been president, he's made, I believe it was $4 billion. That's one individual. One individual, he's made $4 billion. So he's doing well. This is not even counting the money he's made on the Strait. So he's making a lot of money. He's making a lot of bag. The people who are losing out is whom? It's his allies. And this is why these countries need to wake up and smell the coffee. He has not put your interests first. He has put the interests of these foreign nations first. He's put himself and the foreign nation of Israel. So Israel's fine. US, not as at the moment, not bad. Later, different story. Iran, fine. Iran's allies, China, Russia, doing brilliant. This is a lesson. Anyway, yeah, because I was mentioning about the 5 billion. Israel approved buying 2 new fighter jet squadrons, F-35 Lightning and F-15 for tens of billions of shekels. This is important. I want people to understand this because some may try and confuse you about this. Some may try and merge it into one. So you know me, I've always said that the Gulf states are cooked to the United States of America. And part of that is, or part of the issue pertaining to that is, that you basically have it where, what? The first thing is, there's been confirmation that the Gulf states, that the UAE, Qatar, and I believe Saudi Arabia are going to be giving Trump $8.6 billion. Israel's within there, although Israel's giving, I believe, about $800 million. So they're paying $8.6 billion to buy military industrial complex equipment. Now, the argument that's been made by some was, well, when these countries are investing, they're taking control of those assets. Here, there's no control of the assets. You're literally giving money for equipment. You're not paying for shares in Raytheon or Lockheed Martin. So what's happening, there's 2 elements to this, and I don't want anyone to get confused. The first element is the Gulf states. So the Gulf states are paying $8 billion roughly, 7 billion dollars to the military industrial complex, not to Americans. Americans are not going to benefit from this. The military industrial complex is going to benefit from this. So they're giving $8 billion to the military industrial complex. When they give the $8 billion to the military industrial complex, what happens? They then get military equipment that relies on US technology, which again hasn't been the greatest during this war. But in addition to that, you have a reliance, because I know this as a fact, that when Saudi receives the F-35 fighter jets as an example, they don't have control over them. The keys are still in Washington, D.C. So Washington can be like, listen, what? You're being a bad boy? You're not going to be able to use your F-35 fighter jet. So they can do that to Saudi. Israel, when they buy F-35 fighter jets, as per this statement, as per this headline, Israel has the keys to the kingdom. They don't need to basically get the approval. So first element, Saudi is giving the money to Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and various others, right? Now, what about Israel? Because you could be like, oh, but Israel's in the same bag. No, they're not. Because with Israel, it's different. With Israel, let's put aside the fact that the military industrial complex has a number of Zionists in there anyway. So in the end, it's putting the money into their own pocket. But what happens with Israel is what? So how much is the United States of America given under the Trump administration? Just cash to Israel. They've given over $30 billion in this last year or so. So all that happens is they take money from someone like some American, let's say Andrew. Andrew pays to the government. Then the US government give that money to Israel. Israel then spend that money on the military industrial complex. So they get that item for free. So they get in the F-15, F-35 for free. Because remember, this is Andrew's money that's gone to the US government, that's gone to Israel, that Israel then uses to pay Lockheed Martin. So Israel's getting the item for free. The money is going from Andrew's pocket to Lockheed Martin's pocket. And the last element is who's in charge of Lockheed Martin and Raytheon. So it's like a triple dip by these people. So F-35 and F-15, when Israel's given 10 billion shekels, that's American money. That's the difference between them and the Gulf states. That's the difference. I don't want to sound mean, but I gotta say it how it is. Just like I don't agree with this current Iran deal. If Iran was to agree to this, I would disagree with it. I'm not someone who just agrees with someone. if I vehemently disagree. Now, I've already said I give the caveat. This is reported by Al Jazeera. Take it with a grain of salt. Al Jazeera is Qatari media. Qatar is in the pocket of the United States of America and Israel. You know what's funny? Do you remember when people were like, oh, these Zionists were like, oh, guess what? We know Israel controls the United States of America. They control it through the lobby groups, through the government, through blackmailing operations, through various other things. But what's interesting is on this, and I'm just checking the other one. What's interesting about this is that they were like, oh, guess what? What about Qatar? Qatar's putting a huge amount of money in. Qatar's controlling things. And what did we say? We said, wait a sec. You're saying Qatar's controlling things. We don't even agree with Qatar. First of all, they're not in the same manner, because if they were, you wouldn't have Israel bomb Qatar. But you're saying Qatar controls things. Well, listen, Qatar is but under the control of the United States of America. Qatar is under the control under Israel. So when you're saying Qatar controls the United States of America, you're basically saying Israel controls the United States of America. And I think those are important elements to note. And those are important elements to be aware of. You need to differentiate between the things that I mentioned. Because, yeah, we don't agree with any of these countries. And I'm keep checking. Where is Dimitri? He's always turned up normally. But this is what we do, guys. Your boy, the guest was meant to be on. What did we do? We just became flexible. We just flexed it. We just became flexible, and we dealt with the situation. We weren't given great cards, but we dealt with the bad cards. Obviously, you guys know about this. I mentioned this the other day, but this is Ben Gavir giving a cake of a noose. Disgusting behavior. Disgusting behavior. This is in relation to the the law that Israel put in place, where if you're a Palestinian, so you could be a Palestinian and you can be an Israeli. You could be a Palestinian, you could be a Jewish person, and you can be a non-Jewish person. If you're a Jewish person and you were to kill someone, then this law isn't applied to you. But if you're a non-Jewish person and you do this, this law applies to you. And that means that you will be killed. You will be killed. And the death penalty, this is what the noose represents, will be applied to you. This is the level of behavior of these people. Resistance says, I won't mention the first name, but is something Rabbi in 15 minutes, or did he chicken out? It's a good question. Let me check my message. So the last message was, because you're my peeps, I'll tell you. This is what I was told. I said, look, I've got this. So basically, just so you know, the debate was lined up between me and Rabbi Shmuley on Friday. They approached me. I said, yeah, let's do it. Your boy, ready anytime, any place, anywhere. Rabbi Shmuley. But he's scared of me. So what did he do? First of all, he said Friday. He said, I want to change it to Monday. I said, no problem. Then he messages, his assistant messages, and he says, this is his assistant, not him. Then his assistant messages and says, we want to do it on Sunday. And by then, I'd already lined up interviews, these interviews that you're going to see. But I said, no problem. I can still do Sunday. I'll do it straight after the interviews. And then they said, and I said, and if that's a problem, just give me a schedule of all his times and I'll just meet his requirements. And what he then did was, they said, but the rabbi, and when I replied, I said, okay, cool. My interview with Larry Johnson finishes at 6. We can do the debate at 7. And then they said, yeah, it's Jewish Sabbath tomorrow, so Rabbi won't be on his phone till Saturday. Look, we respect religious beliefs. We know he's doing the Sabbath or wherever, although he's probably watching our stream, so, I mean, yesterday. Anyway, but as soon as I hear from him, and he gives me the options, he'll send it. And then the person moderating Tyson said, any follow-up today? And they said, I followed up with him. So this is what it is, just so you know, just to keep you informed. Your boy's doing everything. He's very open. All I'm saying is if I've got an interview schedule at that specific time, I obviously don't want to do someone over. I've given them my word. I'm going to do the interview. We need to have honor and integrity. And so I will do and conduct those interviews. But immediately after that interview, we will be ready for him. So I think it's going to happen. I believe it's going to happen. He will be decimated in that interview, in that debate. He will be destroyed. We'll talk about Israel. We'll talk about Iran. He's not going to be ready for this because I'm not Mehdi Hassan. I love Cenk, but I'm not Cenk. I like him a lot. Very nice guy. Gives us time. I really appreciate it. But I'm not them people. For I will decimate you on all these claims that you make, even against the resistance, even against October the 7th, even against Iran. You're not ready for this, son. So, yeah, that's going to happen. In the sense of, it's going to happen from my side anytime. Obviously, if they back out, then that's a different story. But this time, just to let you know, in case you think I was approaching him, and what I mean by that is, they approached me. So if they're approaching me, they should not back out, right? They know I'm big enough. The only request they asked of me was, make sure you stream it everywhere, because they know we're big. They know we're huge. So they better stream it they said they want to stream it everywhere. We said, fine, no problem. We will stream it everywhere. They know, they see the X Live, and the X Live does get a lot of views, the video bit of it. So they wanted to do it. So we're ready. We're ready. We're ready for the shmool. Okay. So hope that answers your question. Getting back into it. Sorry, I got a bit distracted. Blame the chat. Blame the YouTube chat. They distract me a lot. They distract me a lot. But it's a great question because we've got the schedule, right? I need to change the schedule on that. But anyway, that's that. Iran made the following statement. They said, actually, I could be reading from there, but it's a bit more smaller. I'll read from there. The room of US decision making has narrowed, and Donald Trump must choose between an impossible military operation or a bad deal. So they said to Trump, listen, take our deal. It's not a good deal for you. You got to take it, or you got to go military. And your advisors have told you military operation won't work. I agree with that statement. But if this Al Jazeera report is right, then I think it's not a very bad deal for the United States of America. He gets what he wants. He can say Iran's not going to have nuclear for 15 years. This is longer than even during Obama. This is longer than the JCPOA. I've made Iran agree to 0% enrichment. This will be a huge victory for Trump. This will give Trump the out he needs. Netanyahu made the following statement. He said, I'm just keep checking because I guess he's not turning up. Might have had an emergency. He's a nice guy, so I don't think he would have. Anyway, he said, we are purchasing 2 squadrons of advanced aircraft F-35 and F-15s. Our pilot can reach anywhere in Iran's skies, and they're prepared to do so if required. And regarding independence, I have directed to invest in self-production capabilities of armaments. In the coming decade, we will add 350 billion shekels to the defense budget, and this is to produce these armaments in Israel and not be dependent abroad. Simultaneously, we will develop groundbreaking aircraft blue and white products. This will change the whole picture. And regarding drones, a few weeks ago, I ordered the establishment of a special project to counter the drone threat. And already today, a progress report on the subject will be presented to me. It will take time, but we're on it. So, important points to know. First of all, what they're saying is that they're going to be producing a lot of this defense themselves. They're already telling US, like, look, we don't trust in your military industrial complex. You got smashed. So what they're probably going to do, knowing the Israelis, because they've always done this throughout their whole history, they'll probably get some components or some things from the Chinese. That can be through direct or through espionage. They'll probably do the same thing with the Russians. And then with the American technology as well, they'll then start developing their own military weaponry. They've realized, they always thought that the US military industrial complex was elite, and they now realize it's not the case. So that's what they're doing. And remember, what is the Israeli way? This is a very important point to note. If you look at the history of Israel, they've never been loyal to the United States of America. They were selling secrets. They were doing espionage on America. And during the Cold War between Russia and the United States of America, They would take US secrets and give them to Russia. They would take Russian secrets and give them to the US. They wanted to make sure that they basically position themselves that irrespective of whom is the victor during the Cold War, they would be victorious. I'm talking about Israel. They would be victorious irrespective of Russia or the United States of America winning the Cold War. And throughout history, they've always done that. Imagine them stealing secrets of the United States of America and giving it to Israel. Sorry, giving it to Russia for their own benefit. How can these people be your greatest ally? In what scenario can they be? They cannot be. These people cannot be trusted. But you can see now that this is what they're doing. In addition to that, again, they're saying about the drone technology. Obviously, there are a few countries who are, again, have really good expertise on that. They could be getting these from the Japanese or the Ukrainians. Pakistan has opened this is according to Fars News. They say Pakistan has opened all its ports to Iran. Iranian imports and exports are currently being routed through Pakistani ports due to the US naval blockade. Now, this has been reported by Fars News. So this is by Iranian media. Shout out to Pakistan. You guys know I'm a major critic of Pakistan on a number of issues. That being said, when they do something good, we have to praise them. And helping Iran out in the middle of a war, they should be credited. And if you remember, Professor Marandi said the Pakistanis treat them really well with a huge amount of respect. They treated them like celebrities. They didn't treat them lower than the Americans. This is sometimes which I see a problem with these Asian countries or even these Arab countries. But this time, the Pakistanis went out of their colonized mind and realized that we need to treat these people with respect and admiration. And they did that. So I need to give them credit for that. The third thing I need to give them credit for is when the United States of America lied. When the United States of America lied and said that Lebanon is not included in the deal. When the United States of America and J.D. Vance and Israel lied and said Lebanon is not included, they came out and said, no, Lebanon was included from the start. So they need to be given credit for that as well. So those three things I'll give them credit for. Allowing these routes through Pakistan, allowing them to use their ports, telling the truth when there was a conflict of information. Those things they need to be given credit for. Or do you guys like the dark mode? I need to change it for you. It's because it's on the other. I put it on the other PC. That's why. I like light mode, but I know everyone likes dark mode, so I always switch it for you guys, and then always, even when I'm putting tweets out, I'll switch it and then switch it back. I'll switch it and then switch it back because you're like, oh, it's dark mode. I like it dark, bro. Give me the light. I'm about the light. We're about the light. We're not about the darkness, Loki. We're about the light. We're not about the darkness. Just give me the light. We are the people of illumination. Anyway, don't distract me. I read it. Okay, I am reading all the chats. Mainly the... Silver Sailor is on the Substack and he says, Substack Live is working great, my brother. Salute to our veterans. Can you see on the Substack, Silver Sailor, and everybody else? I can see Doug Lecare on there. Yeah, Dimitri is meant to be coming up, but he hasn't turned up. Let me see if he's turned up now. He still hasn't turned up. Well, we've got this Lebanese journalist coming in 18 minutes. So I guess he's not going to turn up. But if you're on the Substack, let me know. Can you guys see the share screen? Because that means, like, when I have the guest, will you be able to see the guest? Because it's not showing the share screen. The share screen's in the same mode as the guest. What about Instagram? Instagram split down the middle. I think the Instagram looks weird where you can't see anyone. So I guess we're going to have to look at that as well and improve that. I think it's the kind of settings because I was looking at the settings, but I thought I don't want to mess with them. Okay. Coming back to what we were talking about. You only see me. Okay, so why is it not? Oh, so you have to share separately for Substack. That's lame. Okay. Now the other part is what were we talking about? Okay. Next bit. We mentioned that. We mentioned this. Okay, so Spain demands immediate release of Spanish Palestinian activists abducted by Israel. So this is the global Samud flotilla. The global Samud flotilla went to Israel, or should we say, in reality, apologies, I mean Gaza, went to Gaza in order to provide food, medical equipment, essentials for the Palestinian people in the midst of a situation where they're not getting enough items. The blockade has ended, but whatever minimal essentials they need, they're getting about 50% of that. So the global Samud flotilla went, and once again, the Israelis in international waters commandeered them. This is important to know, because aren't you all crying about the fact that Iran has control of the Strait of Hormuz? And Iran's control of the Strait of Hormuz is based on international law. They have the ability, the legalistic application and acceptance that they control 12 kilometers of the Strait of Hormuz. And then Oman owns the other 12. And those are actual Iranian waters. And then I hear the United States of America and Israel complain and say, wait a sec, these are not international waters. Sorry, these are international waters. You should be allowing free movement. And yet, in actual international waters, more than 21 miles from the borders of Israel, the Israeli Navy went and abducted these people. That is international water. So don't tell me anything about international waters when you don't believe it. Or you believe that there's one rule that applies to you, but a different rule that applies to everyone else. Don't tell me you believe it, because you quite clearly don't. Because Israel has demonstrated that they don't believe in this notion or idea of international waters. And actually, Iran is within its legalistic limit of controlling the Strait of Hormuz. But that doesn't matter. If I was Iran, I'd be like, listen, even though we are, it's none of your business. You've demonstrated you don't believe in international law. We saw what you did in Gaza for the last 3 years. We saw what you did to country after country after country. There is no such thing as international law. There is no such thing as international requirements. There is no such thing as international rules. There is only the rule of whatever you want to do, you do it. So don't tell us anything about international law. But obviously Iran's like, look, we're following international law. Yeah, he was like, we're pirates. So the chat, yeah, he was like, we're pirates. I thought you guys were calling Somali pirates, and now you're admitting you're pirates. Like, what's that all about? Who's the pirates? You're admitting you're the pirates. Anyway, we could talk for England on that one. Just checking if he's coming, but one second. He's just messaging me, so I'm replying to him. You want to jump on for... He said his internet got messed up. Okay. What have we got here? 2 US military service members missing after taking part in African Lion 2026. 2 US service members taking part in the African Lion 2026 exercise have been reported missing near the Cap Dara training area close to the city of Tantan in Morocco. So that's just missing. It's not anything specific. But footage of Orlando International Airport after Spirit Airlines shut down operations. So Spirit Airlines has shut down operations. I mean, look, I know Myron put out a tweet and he was like, yeah, this is amazing. Like, Spirit Airlines, they're low class or whatever, or, but listen, Myron, I don't agree with you here. The working class use Spirit Airlines. Like, it's a very cheap airline. I use Spirit Airlines when I'm in the United States of America. Why are you hating on us? I used Spirit when I went from, was it Fort Lauderdale to Cleveland? I think that's when I used it. And I don't know, I thought the airline was good. Why are you hating on it? Like, it was cheap as well. How much did I pay? I paid I think $50 or $40 for a flight. It was bare cheap. So what's going to happen now? In reality, jokes aside, obviously, jokes aside, what's going to happen now? If these cheap airlines, whether Spirit Airlines in the UK, in Europe, we have Ryanair. If people are not able to get these cheap airlines, they're basically not going to be able to go to holiday. Because where someone can put aside $100, $200, go on a cheap holiday, now you're going to have to pay $400 or $500. It becomes a situation, especially when you have a family of 2 or 3 or 4 people. It means you can't travel anymore. And this is the actual real problem of what's happening now. It's going to end up being poor and working class people are going to be affected most. And this has been the whole thing with this entire situation, where the reason Trump doesn't care about the blockade is because he's becoming wealthier. The corporations are becoming wealthier. Poor people, either in the Western world, poor people in the Western world are struggling, right? Their groceries are becoming more expensive. Their oil is becoming more expensive. The energy is becoming more expensive. And this is going to have a cascading effect. You're going to have more people going to food banks, more people homeless. And when I go to the US, there's a huge number of people homeless, especially in the major cities. You go to LA, in some of the more affluent areas, and you're like, what is going on? It's like tens and tens and tens of people, of homeless people. So this is just going to increase. And then the people who are going to be affected even more so are people in the developing world. People in countries like, in Africa, people in Asia. It's not going to be easy. And people are going to start starving. People are going to start struggling. So this is a major crisis. And obviously we joke about Spirit Airlines, but I think it's a major issue in terms of what's happening with Spirit Airlines. The Iranians are now creating minion videos in addition to the Lego videos. They're pulling out all the stops in the information war. And this was horrific. Obviously, I can't show you the video on here, but an Israeli sniper shot an unarmed Palestinian youth in the West Bank. In the West Bank. For no reason. They keep telling us that it's because of Hamas. They keep telling us it's because of the resistance. Can someone tell me, for the ignorant of us, where is Hamas in the West Bank? Why was this young Palestinian sniped? And this is a common thing. Lest it be known that this isn't just happening in the West Bank, it is happening in the West Bank as well. Where is the PA to defend the Palestinian people? But Mahmoud Abbas is but a shill, a representative, a puppet of the Israeli government. Sorry. Okay. So I thought it was breaking news. Someone sent me a message. I thought it was important news, breaking news, but it wasn't. But they did the same thing. I have friends who are doctors who went to Gaza. And when they went to Gaza, that's dumb. Okay, when they went to Gaza, so actually what I got distracted by was this. Someone sent me a message. So community noting my Substack article, which is the blockade that wasn't. And the community note says, the US imposed a naval blockade on April the 13th. True. I wrote that in the Substack article, targeting all vessels entering or exiting Iranian ports, whilst allowing transit to non-Iranian ports. I wrote this in the Substack, but I'm demonstrating that even vessels with fraud that even vessels to and fro from the Iranian ports are being allowed through as well. So I don't get what that Substack is, but stupidity. Okay, so we've repositioned Dmitri Lascaris. So what's going to happen is this, guys. 4 o'clock, we have the Lebanese journalist. That should be, is it Monday if he's come on? In 7 minutes. No. And then 4:30, Dimitri Lascaris. And then 5 o'clock, CIA, Larry Johnson. So that's going to be really good. Okay. Okay. So let's get some more news, obviously. It's here. Admiral Brad Cooper of CENTCOM, Admiral Brad Cooper, the CENTCOM commander, visited the USS Milius today. Yesterday, I believe he was at the USS, was it Tripoli? As the guided missile destroyer patrolled regional waters in support of the US blockade operation against Iran. While on board, he interacted with sailors and addressed them on the 1MC while highlighting the importance of the ongoing mission. As of today, 49 commercial vessels have been redirected to comply with the blockade. US forces remain fully committed to total enforcement. This is according to what they're saying, is their statement. It's inaccurate. I showed in the article only 12 vessels have been returned. So in the Substack article, in the tweet, in the nest, you'll see I said that only 12 have returned. Actually, let me show you that Substack article while we're on here. Here we go. So share this tab. There you can see. That's the Substack article. The blockade that wasn't, how Iran's shadow fleet and sanctioned tankers all sailed through. And you can see here, 5 billion in oil revenue during the war, 50 plus tankers going through, 60 million barrels since February the 28th, blockade failure. So, I don't know, I think it's a very good article. We wrote it, we broke it down, we gave you the details. I think it's worth checking out. Check that out. Anyway, getting back to this. Share this tab instead. Okay. Coming back to the news. The UAE, or as is now known, East Israel, is no longer trying to hide and is consciously choosing to deepen its strategic alliance with Israel. The UAE has chosen to expand its alliance with Israel to include an operational partnership on the ground. There is no longer any doubt that the UAE is Israel's closest Arab partner today. And this is according to Israel Channel 12, confirming once again what we said, that the UAE, East Israel, is in bed with the Israeli regime. Okay, and then we went through the 3 stages, and you know my view on this. I think the complete freeze on enriched uranium for 15 years, if this is true, is a major L for Iran. If it's true. Now, it's been reported by Al Jazeera, so take that with a grain of salt. But if true, it's a major, major problem. The rest of the deal is fine, though. Personally, I think. Okay, and then we also had a bulk carrier attacked off Iran's Sirik, says UK MTO. Reports of an incident 11 nautical miles west of Sirik in Iran. The master of a northbound bulk carrier reported being attacked by several small boats. All crew members were reported safe, and that's probably because he was trying to go through the Strait of Hormuz without any permissions. Obviously, I don't want to go show you that because... And then this is important. UK MTO say multiple shipments are in the vicinity of Ras Al Khaimah in the UAE reported receiving VHF instructions ordering them to leave their anchorages. So that was important. What is happening with all my guests? Like, how come this guy's not here now as well? I'm going to be in 2 minutes. Let me just message him. Okay. I'll just skip through that one. Trump to Israeli Broadcasting Authority said the following: we studied Iran's proposal and it's not good for us. So he's not happy with the proposal. Even if that nuclear instrument is there. That's Gadi Francis. When we interviewed her yesterday, great interview. And she talked about Amal Khalid, the journalist who was killed by Israel. Iran said the US has responded to its 14-point proposal. So let's see what that is. And I mentioned what the Iranian foreign ministry had to say. And I mentioned this as well about Ras Al Khaimah already. Let me see if there's any more news that's come out since then. Okay, so once again, but this happened last night as well. But right now, nearly all the closest pizzerias to the Pentagon are reporting above average traffic right now. So take that with a grain of salt. There does, and again, I feel like we're saying this a lot, and so obviously take it with a grain of salt. It could be for something else, but it could mean that there's going to be escalation. It could mean that there is going to be kinetic warfare. So watch out for that. Okay, brilliant. We've got our guest here. Oh, he's gone. I was just about to bring him up and he's gone. Oh, he's back again. Hi, Mohamad. How are you? Can you hear me? Is it us? No, it's not. Mohamad, can you hear me? Well, we can hear him. 1 second. Let me message him. I'm trying to do sign language. What would you guys do in this situation? So we've got the guest on. He is a Lebanese journalist.
Yeah, I thought it was a problem with my sound mixer, but now everything is working technically fine from my side. Let me double check.
Yeah.
Can you give me a
Yeah, we can hear you, but it seems like you can't hear me.
Can you give me a sound now?
We can hear you. Can you hear me? Chat, it's not me, is it? Because we were speaking beforehand, right? So everything was fine. Yeah, everything is fine from our side.
Okay.
Okay, he's retesting and coming back. Let me just put the poster out. We just gonna get the poster for this. Here it is. Live with Lebanese journalist on the ground. Okay, let's see. Get him up. Hey, Mohamad, how are you? Can you hear me now? Oh, he's gone again. Well, as long as they can continue escaping Israel as much as they escape in this stream, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. We're just waiting for him to come back. Yeah, his audio was really loud, but he couldn't hear me. That was the problem. Can you hear me now? Mohamad, can you hear me?
I still can't achieve to hear you.
Strange. I don't think it's me, you see. That's the thing. Guys, do you think it's me? Chat.
Okay, I will change the settings now. Can you please talk?
Yeah, of course I can. Can you hear me?
Outrageous.
Okay.
No, nothing from your side.
No, we've been live for about an hour or so. 2 hours.
Let me try it.
Let me try my other device to make sure it's not me.
Let me try. I don't like to police, but can you talk now?
Yeah, of course I can. Can you hear me? We're live right now. Testing. Yeah, so that's working, isn't it? That's working. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's him. It's him. We tested it with the other phone. I tested on my other phone. I could hear myself. I tested myself. I called myself. Maybe I should interview myself. I think that would be a great interview. Should I do it again? Should I interview myself? I think that would be a flippin' great interview. You will learn a lot. You will learn a lot from that interview. I think I should interview myself. Wait. I think I should interview myself. That would be a great interview. Like, Suleiman, how do you think the war in Iraq, what do you think about this deal? Well, I don't think it's a good deal. I think it's not a great deal. That's what I'd be saying to myself. Can you hear me now? You put your volume up? Can you hear me? I just tested it myself as well and it was working.
Mr. Sule.
Yep.
Okay, now I got something.
Oh, you can hear me now, right?
Yeah, hello. I think it's a matter of connectivity.
Is it your
Let me try and
connectivity?
switch. Yeah, I think so. Although I should have I should have a stable internet. Let me try and switch to the mobile network.
No problem. But you can hear me,
I
right?
apologize. Yeah, I apologize for that,
No
but
problem.
it should be working.
We can hear you. The visual isn't great, but we can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, I know, but I barely can hear you, so I prefer to
What about now, Mohammed? We could hear you throughout this, by the way. You just couldn't hear us. I'm not too worried about the visual if it's not up to par, as long as you can hear me and you can hear my questions and you can answer them. That's fine. So it seems like when we're streaming this onto YouTube and Insta, the in YouTube shows it, but it's in a weird way. So Insta, so I need to rotate that. And with Insta, it doesn't show my other guest. Why is that? It lets you add guests, but it doesn't stream this though. It's a bit weird. So in the end, people in Substack are just seeing me. So it would be good if we can. We'll have to look into that. Okay, Mohammed's back, but let's see if it's working.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello, Mohammed. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear now. How are you?
Brilliant, brilliant. Thanks for taking your time out to join us. How are you?
I'm fine. How have you been?
Great, great, great. Shall we start because we've got less time?
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. I think we already hit like past 10 something.
No problem whatsoever. Let's go for it.
Okay.
Okay. I just want to welcome Mohamad Makawi to the show. Appreciate him taking his time out to join us. He is a Lebanese journalist on the ground in Lebanon, reporting real time, real news. And this is a very important situation that we get someone like him on the show to let us know what's happening in Lebanon, because I'm a big believer that Lebanon is being forgotten. People are thinking about Gaza, quite rightly so. People are concentrated on the Iran war, rightly so. But Lebanon right now is being bombarded by the air, by the Israelis. So we want to speak about it. So, Mohammed, thank you for taking your time out to join us. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Good evening, Mr. Sulaiman, and greetings for you and your audience. Would you like me to put like some frame for what's happening?
Please do. Please do. Explain to us what you think is happening in Lebanon from your perspective.
Yeah, from my perspective. Thank you for having me first. We are speaking at the moment where the gap between diplomatic talk in Washington and the reality on the ground in Lebanon has never been wider. While there is a technical ceasefire on paper, for the people of southern Lebanon, the war has never stopped. Just today, we have seen lethal strikes in Nabatea and in Tyre in northern Lebanon. We are looking at a country with over 1.6 million people who are displaced, and entire border towns like Bint Jbeil are being systematically leveled, unfortunately. But the real story doesn't. The real story today isn't just the exchange of fire. It is the internal struggle that the soul of the Lebanese state, at this soul. We have a government attempting to ban militia activities while the Lebanese army walks an impossible tightrope to prevent a total civil collapse. Today, I want to share with you how is it looking on the ground.
Yeah, let us know. Like, give us your thoughts on what's happening on the ground. Because we are aware of, for example, Black Wednesday, which was one of the biggest horrors we've seen. We've seen a lot of the destructions happening in, for example, Nabatea, in South Lebanon. We saw Yaroun being hit. But just give us from your
Yes.
perspective on the ground, what is going on?
Well, speaking of the Black Wednesday massacre, it has been the event, that massacre, that changed everything, and why the current ceasefire might be the almost fragile one since the history of this conflict. Let me let me let me take you back to the Black Wednesday on April that happened on April the 8th, the last month. So the event is on April 8th, hours after the ceasefire was announced in the Iran-US war. The Israeli launched operation called Eternal Darkness on Lebanon. So in just 10 minutes, the toll was 50 fighter jets hit over 100 targets across Lebanon, including the central Beirut, Sidon, the Bekaa Valley. Unfortunately, the casualties were at least 357 people who were killed, and over 102,000 were injured. It was the deadliest single day in the conflict. But the most important thing is the significance of that action. So it is remembered as a massacre by the Lebanese government, and Israel claimed it killed 250 Hezbollah operatives. But the Lebanese health ministry reported that over 100 women and children were among the dead. So this atrocity was started just to decouple the Lebanese file from the ceasefire that actually happened a day or 2 days before between the US and Iran. They wanted to decouple this conflict from that.
And what's your thoughts on that attempt to decouple? Because the current Lebanese president, Aoun, and the current Lebanese prime minister, Nawaf Salam, seem to have helped facilitate that decoupling. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, that's actually one of the most one of the faces of this conflict that we are seeing, because we have in Lebanon something called the dual sovereignty conflict. While the Lebanese government under the Prime Minister Nawaf Salam and the President Joseph Aoun has taken the unprecedented step of officially banning Hezbollah's military activity, their ability to enforce this is almost non-existent, because we have seen Israeli breaches since day one of the ceasefire. And the Israeli claim that said that the ceasefire is not, it's prohibited in the war zone. So, in early 2006, the Lebanese army forces said that it has successfully cleared Hezbollah's heavy weapons from the area south of Litani. And we all remember the famous picture for Morgan Ortagos holding a bombshell in her hands. And that was like a big sign that it is working. This armament process is working. The reality check is that on May 1st, 2026, Hezbollah media head Youssef Al-Zain publicly admitted that the group successfully moved new weapons and reinforcements back into the south during the recent fighting, bypassing the Lebanese army forces checkpoints by using other points. And their justification for this is that there's a new occupation, and need to be resisted, and this Israeli existence in the borders, within the Lebanese borders, should cease.
No doubt. Now, one of the things that we've seen is so actually, before we get to this, during the ceasefire, we saw Israel continue to bomb Lebanon almost every single day. There were casualties on most of those days. Even during that ceasefire, the Israelis had already gone into Lebanese land to try and occupy areas of Lebanon. What was the view of the Lebanese people during that period where Hezbollah had told the Lebanese government that you need to protect Lebanon?
Yes. Well, let me start with the ceasefire itself.
Yeah.
A paper truce. So the status is this is a U.S. brokered ceasefire, began on April 17, and it was recently extended until May 17. All right. So here's the paradox. The paradox is it is a ceasefire in name only. Israel maintain a right to self-defense to strike any imminent threat they see, which they have been using to justify a daily bombing into Lebanon or over Lebanon. So this is the fragility of this truth. Okay, so Hezbollah was not a formal signatory directly to this agreement, which was signed between the Lebanese government and Israel. Hezbollah has stated it will respond to any Israeli violation, leading to a tit-for-tat cycle that makes the truce feel like an active war. But nevertheless, and before this last war started, that actually took place after the death of Khamenei, we have seen 15 months of truce. Okay, for this president war that started in 2024 and lasted for 66 days. which actually started with the operation of the famous operation of the pager, okay, bombing the pagers. So after this 66 days of war, we had the first truce, okay. Hezbollah and يعني by all the statements from the U.S. officials and the international officials and the local officials, Hezbollah actually played by the rules, played by the book, and never fired a missile, never fired back at the Israeli hostilities. On the other hand, the Israeli hostilities, the assassinations, the bombing here and there all over Lebanon, especially in the south and in the Bekaa area, kept taking place, and over 5,000 breaches has been made, and I think almost 500 or 600 Lebanese citizens were killed during this first ceasefire that lasted for 15 months before the escalation of U.S. war on Iran. All right, so if we want to compare the first ceasefire to the second ceasefire, it has been a ceasefire on paper only, because the Lebanese government, they want to indicate the monopoly of the state over the weapon possession. But on the other hand, you have the southern people who have been demanding the state, the Lebanese Forces Army, to actually protect them. And we have another conflict, is that now the Israeli forces, they have announced what's called the yellow line.
Yeah.
The yellow line is, unfortunately, this is the first three ranges of the villages that I just mentioned earlier, that has been leveled into the ground. So I don't know if it's a truce, but from my perspective, I don't think it's a truce at all. The war has been going on since the pager operation has started, and for the Lebanese, at least from the Lebanese part, nothing has changed. Only the IDPs, internally displaced people, some of them have returned to have like a year or so of reconstruction, to flee again, and to find what they have fixed broken again. And we all see the awful images from the southern Lebanon and about the bombing, and we have seen the videos and what's going on there.
No doubt, no doubt, and it's been horrific to say the least. What's your one of the statements made by President Trump was that he said that he was going to assist the Lebanese government in order to disarm Hezbollah. And so one surmises, or one tries to hypothesize what that could mean. Does it mean American troops? Does it mean in terms of intelligence? But what is the Lebanese view in terms of this attempt by the Americans to try and get into and help the current Lebanese government against Hezbollah?
Well, the United States, I just said they brokered this ceasefire, but it's a ceasefire on paper, because from one side you have ongoing bombing, we have ongoing assassinations, we have ongoing military operation, and we still have more land is being leveled, more land is being occupied by the day. So I know I don't want to doubt anyone's intentions to help Lebanon to sustain its sovereignty, but at the end of the day, we're talking about people's lives here. We're talking about a whole society that is being destroyed and is being deliberated. You know, they are, and the Israel actually, they announced it, that they are using the Gaza model, unfortunately, on the southern Lebanon. So the U.S. Embassy, anyway, has been active in trying and to actually translate the ceasefire into actions on the ground. But this means, and there is no way up until this point that the Lebanese army forces will confront with Hezbollah, because actually the general of the Lebanese army, the chief of the Lebanese army, General Rodolphe Haikal, has stated that they will never go into confrontation against Hezbollah because this will be translated directly into a civil war.
And
So,
and just a question on the civil war. What's in
yeah.
your view? What's the chances of there being a civil war, or do you think the Lebanese people are gonna unite against these Israelis trying to occupy the country?
Okay, listen. When actually the Black Wednesday happened, we had a total sentiment, total feeling of unity, and that the nationalism, يعني at least it was a nationalism moment, okay. But what happened afterwards and the escalation, unfortunately, from the Israeli side and from the Lebanese side, from the Hezbollah side, at the same time, because yeah, because at some point Hezbollah had to respond, and we all knew this. We all waited for this moment because they have kept the ceasefire. They kept the word, although they were not the signature on that paper, but they kept playing by the book until the last minute.
Okay,
And
now,
then,
sorry, go ahead.
yes, sorry. And then people started receiving, the people who actually returned in the, at least for like 72 hours or like 48 hours, who actually returned to their villages to check their properties, to check their lands. Uh, They have received at least 11 villages yesterday. It was today actually, and yesterday, at least 11 villages. They have received evacuation orders from the IDF, the Israeli forces. So we are returning to point zero here. Okay, so the ceasefire isn't working, but we are hoping as Lebanese people to hold down the internal front, because this is one of the most important factors in this conflict.
We've seen the Israelis go into certain villages in Lebanon and blow up the homes. What's happening with that? Why are they able to get into those villages and blow those homes up?
Well, as you may know, what's left of Hezbollah troops are trapped and they are under siege, technically speaking and militarily speaking. Okay, so and there's yani, they are fighting back with all what they have, but at the same time there is no other authority to confront with the Israelis. All right. So yes, they are moving there. They are bombing homes, and their justification for this is that this is a terrorist infrastructure, and these homes are being used by Hezbollah to plan and to take hostilities against the Israeli forces and against the northern people, the northern settlers in Israel. All right, but viewing the satellite imagery and viewing all this mass destruction and the systematic destruction and demolition of these homes will make you think, like for example, Bint Jbeil it's a city. It's one of the major cities in the south. It's almost wiped out. It is almost wiped out. And other we have seen almost 70, 65 to 70 villages are completely destroyed. It was leveled up to the ground. Uh, and as aforementioned, the only justification is that we are working against a terrorist infrastructure, and Hezbollah has been using these homes and these facilities to fight back the Israelis.
That's the claim. When you say Hezbollah is under siege, what do you mean by that?
Okay, during the last war, what happened is that Israel they have targeted all the bridges and all the main roads that connects the south to other regions and areas in the country. All right, and nevertheless, uh, nevertheless, in the first 66 days, they have claimed that they have destroyed like almost 60 to 65% of Hezbollah's ammunitions and stocks. Okay, so given these facts, and with the claims of the Lebanese armed forces that they have declared a huge amount of the artillery, so I think yes, they are trapped. Plus, we have the Syria effect now because all these chains of supplies that they were dependent on the ground routes between Lebanon, Syria, and Iran are now cut due to regime change in Syria. So this is one of the big factors that have stopped the flow of missiles and artillery to Hezbollah. All right. So this is what I meant with trapped,
Okay.
not sieged. It's under siege.
Okay. And coming back to what's happening now, the situation is quite ferocious. The Israelis are saying that they want to take up to the Litani River. They say there's an 8 kilometer buffer zone that is going to be Israel now. And then the remaining amount up to the Litani River is going to have Israeli military control. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, they are calling to occupy the yellow line. Okay, so as you said, this yellow line, it's like a buffer zone, similar to what happened in Gaza before the 7th of October. Anyway, so this yellow line, there are stationed troops. Israel currently has ground troops stationed south of the Litani River. Okay, so it's what they call the yellow line. Israel military chief Eyal Zamir recently threatened to strike Hezbollah beyond the yellow line. Uh, Actually, they are doing this anyway. So they are claiming that this is the current limit of the Israeli ground control. But nevertheless, we have seen, and at least in the last 24 hours, operations has been taking places beyond that line. So practically, it's a vague or it's a gray area. Okay, so Israel claims it will eliminate any threat on north of the Litani River if it deemed the ceasefire has been breached. Okay, but the reality check here is that Israel itself never stuck to or never committed to the ceasefire that has been signed between the Lebanese government and between Lebanon and Israel. Okay, uh, so now they are going to occupy this area, and we have annexation concerns because unlike 2006, okay, where they have retreated and behind the blue line, okay, the rhetoric from the Israeli Defense Ministry in March 2024 suggested no longer term security zone in or occupation to ensure the northern Israeli residents can return home. So we are talking about a buffer zone, and we are talking about just resetting the whole conflict 2.0, because this is actually what started the whole thing, the occupation of the southern Lebanon in 1982 and the former years. So uh, that's the situation.
Mohammed, any last thoughts about where you think things are going to go in terms of Lebanon?
Well, yeah, actually, I do have some last thoughts. Um, Sorry. Well, actually, well, first I would like to thank you again for having me on your show,
No, thanks for coming.
and secondly, I really hope that the on the 17th May that this ceasefire will actually be translated into a long-term ceasefire, There are some parties inside Lebanon. You know, one of the biggest clashes and one of the biggest concerns as we speak in Lebanon is to translate actually the direct negotiations that actually the United States of America is pushing Lebanon towards to. At the same time, you have like a third of the population, amongst Hezbollah, of course, they are refusing this direct peace talks or negotiations, especially President, actually the Speaker of the Parliament, Nabih Berri, who actually stated that in order for us to negotiate, Israel has to move out of Lebanon first, and to actually commit to the ceasefire. On the other hand, we have the government backed by the United States and led by President Aoun and Prime Minister Nawaf Salam, who wanted actually to see actions in disarmament from Hezbollah itself. So I really hope that the internal front in Lebanon doesn't see any clashes or doesn't see any armed clashes. As we speak, people are already escalating in terms of we see people fighting over on social media. We see actually propaganda has been taking place over the classic TV channels and over the social media. Influencers are already fighting and arguing about this. But at the end of the day, we are all we have like an agreement, a moral agreement. We all stand behind the Lebanese army, and we hope that the Lebanese armed forces will be the peacekeeper inside Lebanon. And I think at some point, Hezbollah will come to a point and perhaps be convinced to actually put some effort directly in the negotiations, in the direct negotiations.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Hezbollah is very open to negotiations, but we appreciate you taking your time out to join us. We'll definitely get you back on again, Mohamad. Thank you so much for giving us your insight in terms of what's happening in Lebanon. Where can people find you? Are you on X?
I'm on X and I'm on Instagram as well. Yes, I will send you the handles.
Brilliant. Yeah, once you do, we'll put it out there, especially when we put the clips out. Thank you so much for taking your time. I will definitely get you back on again. It was very insightful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have
Appreciate
a
it.
great evening.
That was Mohamad Makawi. Make sure you are giving him a follow. Make sure you follow him on X and Insta. We will put his social medias out there. Make sure you like this video, share it, comment on it. What's your thoughts on it? He had kind of some controversial opinions about the Lebanese army and how Hezbollah maybe needs to be a bit more open with the negotiations. Give me your thoughts on what he had to say in the comments. Like, comment, and share. We now have on Dimitri Lascaris coming on. And let me bring him on to the show. Dimitri, I just want to welcome Dimitri onto the show. Thank you so much for taking your time out to join us. Dimitri is a journalist, and he's been on the ground in Iran and in Lebanon. So we're going to get a great insight because he went in from a kind of impartial perspective and has been reporting from the ground. Dimitri, thank you so much for taking your time out to join us. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. And my apologies, Suleiman, for having internet problems today. Hopefully, they're over. They've been resolved, but we'll see.
That's great to hear. You know, I'm glad you got your internet back and no problems. We kind of had to, we were flexible, so no worries on that. But Dimitri, we want to get right into it because we've only got you for a short period of time. Dimitri, Lebanon, you spent a lot of time on there. You were reporting on the ground. We saw Black Wednesday. We saw what happened on the recent Thursday. I forgot what they called, Bloody Thursday. It's been horrific. What's your thoughts on what's happening in Lebanon?
Well, I think that it's quite clear that the Israelis aren't interested in peace. They aren't interested in any kind of a ceasefire. They have maintained their perfect record of violating every ceasefire to which they have ever claimed to assent. And I think they've become increasingly desperate, and even to a greater degree than has been the case historically, they're turning their wrath on the civilian population because they have utterly failed to subdue Hezbollah. Let's recall that in the fall of last year, Netanyahu went in front of the UN General Assembly and said that Hezbollah had been crippled. We are now seeing, certainly in the lead up to this so-called ceasefire, the latest one that Donald Trump declared in Lebanon, a higher degree of military operations from Hezbollah. And it's become an almost daily occurrence, even for the Israeli media and the Israeli military, to admit that they're suffering casualties in South Lebanon. And so I think that's why we are seeing a corresponding increase in the violence against civilians because of the military failure.
So you're talking about the military failure on the ground, right? And what there is two elements of that, right? Though, because we are seeing, as per what you said, there is military failure, especially when they go to areas where there is Hezbollah protection. But what about the other areas where there's not? There's some areas we've seen the Israelis manage to go to the homes, demolish those homes. What's your kind of thoughts or perspective on that?
Yes, unfortunately, neither the resistance nor the Lebanese army has the ability to put a stop to that because Israel is provided with an endless stock of destructive munitions by the United States and in various other forms of military assistance. But the question here, I mean, of course, obviously, what they're doing to the civilian infrastructure, which has been openly admitted by Israeli military commanders to the Israeli media. The question here is, are they going to be able to control the territory in which they are currently obliterating what remains of the civilian infrastructure? And I think the answer is quite clear. They're not going to be able to control it. The Israeli forces in South Lebanon right now are like sitting ducks. They have absolutely no defense to Israel's drone attacks. I'm sorry, to the resistance drone attacks, and particularly the fiber optic drones. So the longer they remain there, the more the casualties will escalate. This idea that they're going to take civilians and from Israel and introduce them as colonists in the south of Lebanon is frankly laughable. The civilian population that previously resided in the north of occupied Palestine, in places like Kiryat Shimona, they don't want to stay there anymore. They won't even stay in the settlements that are in the north of occupied Palestine. The chances you're going to get significant numbers of them to come into South Lebanon are next to nil. And certainly the Israeli military cannot stay there without sustaining huge casualties. So, yes, what they're doing is criminal. They are flattening what remains of the villages that are near the border of the genocidal colony. But that doesn't equate to control. It certainly doesn't equate to sovereignty. And I think that ultimately what we're going to witness is a withdrawal from Israeli forces from this region again. And then, the Lebanese, the people, the courageous people who lived in those communities will return, I believe, one day, and they will rebuild. But in the interim, there's not much that they can do to stop the wholesale destruction of civilian infrastructure.
Yeah, and what we saw was one of the things we've seen quite a lot over these 60 days roughly since they've done this assault on Lebanon is the Israelis directly targeting Christian and even Druze villages. We saw them bomb Eitarun and various others. We saw them basically defile the statue of Jesus. We saw them bomb Yarun just a couple of days ago, and Yarun had in it the monastery for nuns, as well as it also had the Christian school. What's your thoughts on this direct attack on Christians that's occurring in Lebanon?
Well, you could also add to that list of the nun who was brutally beaten in Jerusalem by an Israeli colonist a couple of days ago. Uh, I mean, this is, I think, really a testimony to how the Israelis have lost their minds. The last vestige of strong support for Israel in the United States is the evangelical Zionist Christians. And they are going to end up destroying what remains of their support within that community. If they lose the evangelical Christians in the United States, it's all over for Israel. Where are they going to find support at the polls for the United States policy of supporting Israel come hell or high water? So they are literally committing political suicide before our very eyes by expanding their campaign of terror and genocide to Christian communities in South Lebanon. But again, it's not just South Lebanon; it's within historic Palestine itself that we're seeing. And they even blew up a synagogue, for God's sakes, in Tehran, and admitted after the fact that the Israeli military destroyed it. So I believe that what we're watching is the collapse of the Zionist colony. It's going to take some time to play out, and there will be a considerable degree of additional destruction that they will inflict on people in the region. But this is unsustainable from a purely political perspective. They cannot count on American support if they continue to commit atrocities against Christian communities in the region.
We've just got some breaking news, and want to ask you on this is a little bit away from Lebanon. Trump just announced Project Freedom. And what Project Freedom is a US-led operation to escort trapped ships out of the Strait of Hormuz. It's a very long statement he's made, but just to summarize, he's saying that there's dozens of neutral vessels that will be helped escorted out of the Strait of Hormuz through American military prowess. Any attempts to stop them will be dealt with forcefully. And he also said that the US representatives are having very positive discussions with Iran and that talks could lead to something positive from all sides. But the first one is that it seems like there's going to be some kind of military escort, which he claimed a couple of months ago in terms of the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, first of all, I just did a report myself on the new 14-point peace proposal that Iran apparently has provided to the Americans through the mediators. Al Jazeera Arabic put out a report in which it described what the basic terms of this plan are. I have not yet seen any official statement from Iran confirming what Al Jazeera Arabic is reporting, but if it's accurate, and it does seem believable, that peace plan is, I think, almost definitely going to be, although it is a very reasonable plan, it is almost definitely going to be rejected by the Trump regime. It involves, in the first phase, there's a three-phase negotiation being proposed. In the first phase, the American forces would have to withdraw from the maritime perimeter of Iran. Exactly what that means is unclear, but one would think that that means withdrawal from the Persian Gulf military bases. I suspect that that's a non-starter for the United States. There's an element in the first phase involving compensation for Iran. I believe that's a non-starter for the United States. In the first phase, the Iranians want a complete lifting of the blockade to be done in parallel with a lifting of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. I don't think the Americans will accept a lifting of the blockade. So when Trump says that there is progress in the peace talks, I don't see, although, as I say, this 14-point proposal seems very reasonable to me and is completely consistent with Iran's rights and duties under international law. I don't see the United States ever accepting any major element of that plan. So again, he's blowing smoke. Now, as to this this proposal or this project, whatever he calls it,
can I ask you a question on that?
yeah,
Because about the three-stage plan, like there's one element of it which I'm not too happy with. It's essentially Iran giving away nuclear enrichment for 15 years, not being able to enrich uranium for 15 years.
yeah.
And then after that, doing 3.67%. That's total agreement with the American demands about nuclear enrichment, though, isn't it?
Not at all. Not at all. The Americans have been demanding no enrichment ever and a complete dismantling of Iran's nuclear program. This is a very different proposal that Iran has put forward. Iran is saying we will continue to have a civilian nuclear program. That the proposal is explicit about this. What they say is we're proposing to stop enrichment for a period of 15 years, after which we can enrich to the level that we were permitted to enrich under the JCPOA.
Yeah.
And so they're not giving up the right to enrich. And I think they were always willing, if it meant that they could avoid a war and get sanctions relief and get the unfreezing of their assets, they were always willing to give Donald Trump a better deal than Obama secured under the JCPOA, so that Trump could go back to his base and say, I got a better deal than Obama. This is not new. I think that they were willing to do it before they got attacked
They were.
for the purpose. But if it meant sanctions and relief and avoiding a war, uh, so they are not anywhere close to giving up their civilian nuclear program, and they have a right under international law to have one. So I think this is not even close to what the United States has been demanding. I do acknowledge, though, it is a relaxation of their prior proposal, under which they were saying we won't even talk about the nuclear program until we resolve issues like our security, the end of the war, the Strait of Hormuz, and so forth. But I just don't see the United States accepting this. And frankly, I think it's a very wise move on the part of the Iranians because it shows that they are being flexible. At the end of the day, Suleiman, there's zero chance, in my opinion, that Donald Trump will accept this proposal as reasonable as it is or anything like it. And this idea that he's now going to send his military forces into the Strait of Hormuz, where I was myself at the end of March on a vessel in the strait, and I saw with my own eyes how easy it is for the Iranian military to take out any vessel that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. If he's going to do this, the United States is going to suffer losses, very significant losses. And maybe that's his objective. He wants to have an excuse to restart the war. That could be true. That could be the case. But if they're going to actually attempt to escort vessels through the Strait of Hormuz, the United States military is going to take an absolute beating, and there's going to be even more hell to pay with the American voting public.
On that, and by the way, I do disagree about the nuclear enrichment, but we'll have to agree to disagree. I think that blocking it for 15 years is a going against your own sovereign rights, especially in a world where nuclear energy is so important. But in terms of specifically this, my question to you though, because you've been on the Strait of Hormuz, you know this firsthand. Other than basically dealing with the Americans through the boats and the various other mechanisms they have on the strait, is that the mechanism they're going to do it, or do you believe that they're also going to use drones and missiles in order to stop the American Navy in the strait?
They have so many ways to in the Persian Gulf. You name it. I mean, there's just about every method available to them to inflict serious damage on the U.S. Navy. And just ask yourself this: why hasn't the United States attempted this up until now? With the world's most expensive navy, presumably the greatest armada in history, this has been going on for 2 months. The closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Why has the United States up until now escorted any cargo ships or tankers through the Strait of Hormuz? And why has Europe refused to do so, despite all the abuse, the verbal abuse that Donald Trump has heaped upon them for not helping them in the Strait of Hormuz? It's because they all know it's a suicide mission. And that hasn't changed. So my suspicion is if he's actually going to attempt this, and I'll believe it when I see it, that he's looking for a pretext to resume the hot war against Iran.
That makes a lot of sense. The only question I've got for you on that is, though, do you think Iran does it? And what I mean by that is, I can see how Iran may use, for example, the Navy boats or various things, but would they use any form of missile or drone? Because I've always seen Iran, in some instances, I think not in the right way, but I've always seen Iran has been very averse to war, trying their best not to get into confrontation, trying to get peace, which is a very good thing, but you're dealing with a brutal regime. You're dealing with a brutal enemy who's willing to go as low as they are. And sometimes having ethics becomes a problem. This could be an example. For example, maybe, do you think, because you've been around them, would they use their drones? Would they use their missiles? I doubt it, you see, so that's why I'm asking you.
Why wouldn't they? We're beyond the point of restraint at this stage. The IRGC understands perfectly well, as does the Iranian leadership, that the greatest leverage they have is the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. If they allow the U.S. Navy to pass through the strait unmolested, escorting these vessels, they've basically given up their greatest point of leverage. They've shown themselves willing to brutalize American military bases in the region. They've launched attacks on, unfriendly nations, cargo ships and tankers. They have been pummeling Israel. Why would it be a red line for them to use drones and missiles on U.S. naval vessels passing through the strait? And as I said, I don't even think they have to do that. They could use mines. They could use their diesel submarines. But there's no real difference between using drones and missiles as opposed to any of their other weapons. The key point here is I don't think the Iranians are going to give up their greatest point of leverage, which is their control over the Strait of Hormuz. So this is a suicide mission. And I'm skeptical that Trump will even attempt it.
It's interesting you say that, and both of your points are quite interesting because one, you're saying you doubt he'll try it because it's illogical to do so, and if he was to do so, it's because he wants to basically bring the ball back to some kind of kinetic warfare, and Americans' lives being lost would be a perfect scenario to do so, whether
Yes.
that or the ground invasion. Do you think that do you think that if there is American lives lost, that this could be a pretext for possibly a ground invasion, which nobody was really accepting?
Oh, he may be willing to go there. It's possible. I wouldn't exclude that at this stage. But if Trump thinks that he's going to get a majority of Americans to support an escalation of this war on Iran and all the damage that that will occasion to the American economy and the global economy by provoking attacks on naval vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, he's truly delusional. I don't think this is going to change the political environment for Trump at all. People, I think, are going to, for the most part, understand what's going on here. That Trump is escalating a war and looking for a pretext to return to the hot phase of the war. He's lost the American public on this issue, and it's just going to get worse from here. They just issued a poll which showed that 77% of Americans blame Trump for the painful increases in the price of gas. And that poll showed that 55% of Republicans blame Trump for the increases in the price of gas. From the very beginning of this war, a majority of Americans were opposed to it. This man is looking, he's thrashing about desperately looking for ways to escalate the war without losing, the support of the American electorate. And that's a fool's errand. He's going to end up getting absolutely smashed in the midterm elections the way this is going.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll have to. Yeah, I agree with you in terms of the United States of America. Now, Dimitri, in terms of, and obviously I was wanting to speak to you about Lebanon, but this is kind of like breaking news. Coming back to the three-stage plan, you said it's very open in the sense of, I agree with you. I think Iran's being very open to negotiations by giving this deal. What's your thoughts? And what's your thoughts about actually the possibility? I know you're saying the possibility is lower, but we're seeing just now a report came out that Steve Witkoff is very positive about the Iranians' proposals. We saw the UAE, the woman who's a UAE influencer, talking about how they need to accept that there's going to be a world with Gulf and Iranian relations. What does that not seem to suggest that there is a pathway going towards a possible deal?
Well, I haven't seen these reports, but I'm going to tell you that I'm deeply, deeply skeptical that there's going to be any kind of a deal. The United States has never, ever, at an official level, I'm talking about an authorized representative of the Trump regime going on the record and said that they are willing to meet any of the demands that Iran is making. The only time something like that happened was when Trump put out that Truth Social post before the Iran-U.S. ceasefire went into effect, saying that he believed that the 10-point peace plan of Iran was a workable basis of negotiation, and then he immediately resigned from that. He said that there were multiple 10-point peace plans, and they threw the 10-point peace plan into the garbage. And then he sent J.D. Vance to Islamabad to make maximalist demands. Didn't make any concessions, as far as anybody can tell. Ended the negotiations after 21 hours, saying this is our best and final offer. So other than that Truth Social post, which I think was a fraudulent post that was designed to get the Iranians to the negotiating table and to stop firing on U.S. military bases in Israel, other than that, there's been no official acknowledgement by the U.S. government that it's willing to accept any of the demands, which is allowing the Iranians to continue to have a civilian nuclear program, paying compensation to Iran, allowing Iran to control the Strait of Hormuz, removing U.S. military bases from the region, allowing Iran to continue to support the axis of resistance, including Hezbollah and the Palestinian resistance groups. The Americans have never said that they're willing to accept any of those demands. And when I look at that 14-point peace plan, I don't think it's materially different from what they were proposing before. It's a modest relaxation at best of what they were proposing before. These two parties remain miles apart, Suleiman, miles apart. And the U.S. is bent on one goal, and that goal is to destroy Iran as a sovereign state and to render it incapable of defending itself from U.S. or Israeli aggression. That's the goal. The goal has not changed. And I think it's a virtual inevitability that we are going to see a return to the hot phase of this war.
Yeah, that makes sense. One last question before we let you go. Thank you so much for being flexible in terms of the timing. We just saw that Trump had appointed Nick Stewart from the FDD to the negotiation team. This was from a few days ago. And the FDD, as you know, is basically an Israeli lobby group and very hawkish when it comes to Israel. What's your thoughts? Again, I guess it adds to your point, but what's your thoughts on this perspective that he's put an even more pro-Israel, pro-hawkish, pro-Iran war person as part of the negotiation team?
Well, Witkoff and Kushner have been completely and utterly discredited. Witkoff is probably the worst peace envoy in the history of peace envoys. Everything he has touched, the Ukraine war, the genocide in Gaza, and the war with Iran has turned into a complete and utter catastrophe. So all that Trump is doing, I don't know who this character Nick Stewart is. All I know about him is what you just said. But if he in fact is as pro-Israel as Witkoff and Kushner, or even worse, that's just a sign of where all of this is heading. He's just swapping in one face for another because the two shysters who preceded this guy have been completely discredited in the eyes of the Iranians. And so at the end of the day, this is a signal, if in fact that is the ideological orientation of this replacement, that the negotiations are intended to fail.
Yeah, yeah. So Dimitri, thank you so much for taking your time out to join us. Really appreciate you. I know people can find you on your YouTube channel, which is Reason to Resist, and also your X, which is your name, right? Dmitri Lascaris.
Correct. Thank you very much, Suleiman.
Thank you so much for taking your time. I really appreciate it as always. Everybody give Dimitri a follow. Thank you so much. Thank you. That was Dmitri Lascaris. Make sure you give him a follow. Great journalist on the ground inside Lebanon, on the ground inside Iran, giving you the real news, real information. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you comment in the main section. Let me know your thoughts. He had a totally different perspective about Lebanon. He thought the deal was a really good deal. You know me, I think the deal is a very bad deal. So we'll have to wait and see what your thoughts on that are. Let me know in your comments. Do you agree with Dimitri or do you agree with your boy? Let me know in the comments. We've got the one and only, the legend there is, Larry Johnson coming on. So we'll bring him on right now. Give me 2 seconds. Larry, how are you doing? How are you?
I'm here. It's Sunday. It's supposed to be resting.
The day of rest. We don't rest, Larry. We're just working so hard, especially when we're dealing with the man known as Donald J. Trump.
As they say, no rest for the wicked.
Exactly. Oh, the wicked do not let us rest. That's the biggest problem.
Yeah, that's a better expression.
Yeah. Larry, thank you so much for joining us. Always appreciate you. We've just got some breaking news. It was about 20 minutes or 15 minutes before you came on. I don't know if you saw it, but Donald Trump put out a Truth Social post. I'll just read you the kind of headline from it. He essentially said that they will be, from Monday, starting a new operation. I'm just getting it up now. They're going to be starting a new operation, and the operation is going to be called Project Freedom. And the aim of it is we discussed this previously. He claimed he was going to do it in the past, but he's going to be using the U.S. Navy to go into the Strait of Hormuz and help the vessels that are stopped in the Strait of Hormuz and navigate them and help them out of the Strait of Hormuz. He said if Iran attempts to attack, then there will be serious consequences. What's your thoughts on this breaking news?
Iran will sink a few ships, and Donald Trump will learn a hard lesson. Well, I don't know if he'll learn, but they're not going to get the Strait of Hormuz open that way. And excuse my language, but Iran's not going to fuck around. They haven't been. This is not posturing and pretending. So this is Donald Trump's excuse to try to restart the war and to do it where he's not under the War Powers Act. It's the 60-day deadline. So Friday was the deadline that he was supposed to get Congress to vote to approve to continue doing it or not. So he said, no, it's over. That war's done. But we're starting a new one on Monday. So, he telegraphs this thing. He thinks it's just a PR game, and they're gonna learn that any U.S. ships that enter are going to be hit and sunk.
So I guess the question to you is, though, Larry, how will Iran hit those ships?
They've got a whole variety of ways. They've got mines. They've got underwater drones. They've got surface drones. They've got aerial drones. They've got short-range ballistic missiles. They got coastal cruise defense missiles. Yeah, they got a whole panoply of options. So I don't know which one they'll choose to use, but they may choose to use them all.
Okay, so one question I've got on that though is, will Iran do that though? And the reason I ask the question is, one thing we've learned about Iran is they're very similar to China. They're very averse to war. They're very averse to getting into some kind of kinetic action. If Trump tries to navigate through the Strait of Hormuz, they're going to have to physically hit one of the American vessels. Do you think they
Correct.
would do that?
Yes. Yeah. Why wouldn't they?
They just demonstrated an aversity towards any kind of action that results in them physically hitting first.
Well, this wouldn't be them physically hitting first. This would be retaliation for the United States has already committed acts of war, piracy on Iranian vessels. And Iran has yet to respond to those acts of piracy. And so if the United States is stupid enough to enter the Strait of Hormuz, to send a destroyer or two in, they're going to learn the hard way. So, I don't know if Trump will go the taco route again, but he may. He'll put out this threat and then fail to follow it up. I hope that's the case. But otherwise, if he's laboring under the illusion that the United States has enough firepower to defeat the Iranian Navy, what's still left of the Iranian Navy. It was not 100% destroyed. And in fact, they've got all these small boats that the United States, it's one thing to blow up one small boat. It's another thing to try to blow up 20, 25 that are swarming you. And then that on top of that, being hit with drones that are swarming you. So this, Iran has been given a gift by Donald Trump. Told what they're going to do, Iran can now prepare accordingly.
I interviewed it was a Russian journalist, and he said that basically Russia had given Iran these underwater torpedoes. What's your knowledge or information on that? And if you can explain to my audience how that works.
Well, they're not torpedoes. These are drones. In other words, they can be steered. A torpedo normally it's launched and you line it up and then fire it, and then it follows that trajectory that you lined it up with. These underwater drones, though, are actually they're maneuverable, and so they can be steered, with a joystick. This is all the kids your age that grew up playing video games. Who know you got job security now?
That's the millennials.
Yeah,
Gary.
yeah.
That's the millennials. We worked hard. We're Gen X. But coming back to it, in terms of, you mentioned how they can direct those drones. From Iran's perspective, how do they navigate the situation? From your understanding of America, in terms of the fleet they've got, how do you think they get? I know you think it's not going to work, but how do you think he will attempt to do this?
Well, it sounds like he's going to send in a couple of destroyers. I think it'd be interesting to see what the admiral who's in charge. They call it the Combined Forces Maritime Component Commander. I forget what his name is, but he's basically in charge of these operations. If he's smart, he'll refuse to follow the order, because if they put any U.S. ships into Iranian territorial waters, because that's what it is, that whole Strait of Hormuz, I think, is like 23 miles wide. So that means 12 miles out for Iran and 12 miles out for Oman. The combined, that whole waterway right there is under the joint control of Iran and Oman. So if the United States dares to enter Iranian territorial waters, it's not international waters, territorial waters, again, that's an act of war. And once again, Iran has a right to defend itself. They carry, so the ship carries some Tomahawk missiles, the U.S. destroyer. But they only got a limited number, and there's a lot more targets than there are Tomahawks, and so Iran will, I'm certain Iran will retaliate, and we may be looking at some serious loss of life on the part of U.S. sailors.
You in the region there is the three USS carriers, possibly four. I think you mentioned to me that there's a fourth.
Well, there were four temporarily, and then it turned out it looks like the Dwight Eisenhower was replacing the Gerald Ford, and the Gerald Ford is now headed back. I think it's in the Mediterranean, headed back to Norfolk, Virginia.
Oh, is that confirmed now?
Yeah, so they're now down to three.
Okay, so they've got three USS aircraft carriers in the region. I believe they're not too far away from the Strait of Hormuz.
They're about 200 miles away.
Yeah, and previously the Abraham Lincoln was like 1,000 kilometers away, 1,100 kilometers.
Well, varying reports, but they have to be at least 200 miles off the coast of Iran. I do think the Lincoln is 700 miles away. It suffered some damage. There's been the report of a fire on board of one of the destroyers. I think that's a euphemism for it got hit by a drone or something that did damage to the ship, because it lost power, complete loss of power, and that shouldn't have happened just from some accidental fire on board. So something more serious occurred there. But if you understand that with each carrier strike group, each aircraft carrier will be attended by about 3 to 4 destroyers. And then those destroyers provide the air defense for that ship. If they divert those destroyers into I'll call it an offensive mission of sailing into the Strait of Hormuz, you are then stripping away air defense for that ship. It doesn't have it. And then the problem is if these destroyers get into, they start shooting off their missiles, the Tomahawks, for example, well, then they're going to have to go away to another port, probably Diego Garcia, in order to. Are you hearing somebody talking?
No.
Yeah,
Guys, can you hear anything?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hearing the voice. Well, anyway, they'd have to probably go to Diego Garcia and to refit, to resupply, because they can't do it at sea. Because these missiles, they're called vertical launch systems. The missiles stand up and like a silo on deck. It's built into the deck, so you have to have a crane bring it and drop it in.
Can you still hear that noise? Because
Yeah.
I've just checked and it isn't us.
Yeah, I'm.
1 second, let me just.
It sounds like Dimitri's still on.
Okay, let me. How do I? Let me just remove. Okay, what about now?
There, it's gone.
Okay, I think you could hear it because of the background, but none of us could.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. He was still on.
I love chatting. I've chatted with Dimitri a couple of times before.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Coming back to it in terms of the destroyers. So the destroyers, if they leave the carrier, you're saying now you leave the carrier open to possibly being hit.
Yeah. It has no defense. Those carriers are its defense, its screen around it. And that's why this whole notion that we got this ironclad blockade around Iran, give me a break. It's nonsense. We don't have enough ships to do that. The concept of a blockade would actually be to go to like the port of Bandar Abbas, and then set up a series of ships that are within eyesight of each other, and then can also see to the port. You'd be that close in. But we can't do that anymore because Iran's got too many weapons that would defeat our ships. so we have to keep them away. And then if we do happen to, we boarded one ship. You haven't heard a lot of reports about us boarding and taking on other ships, have you, in the last 3 weeks? Yeah, gee, why is that? Well, that's because if you capture a ship, then you got to put what's called a prize crew on board. It's your own crew that's going to run that ship, sail it to wherever you want it to go, and you got to have a ship that accompanies, a U.S. Navy ship that accompanies it. Well, so far, over the course of the last 3 weeks since the blockade, so-called blockade started, Iran has had more than about 150 ships that have come out of the Strait of Hormuz and headed off for Asia. Well, the United States doesn't have 150 ships. I mean, if we were going to stop each and every one of those, we'd have to have 150 ships. We don't have that. We don't even have 20. Okay, right now they've got like 11. So you're going to stop maybe 8% of the ships. Yeah. All that's going to do is just irritate the Iranians.
Yeah, I wrote a Substack on this. There's about 200 to 250 vessels that have gone through. The Americans have commandeered maybe 3 or 4 of them. They claim they sent back, and they gave the names of about 8 more. That's just nowhere near the number that they're claiming, and it's just completely open. Iranian vessels are going through, Iranian sanctioned vessels are going through, Russian vessels, Chinese vessels, even American allied vessels are going through. So there is no block. Like, this is just a facade, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just a complete charade. And so it is another example of Trump, lying to the American public. Now, he may really genuinely believe, oh, man, we were really putting a hurt on Iran. Then, you see, Iran is not restricted to maritime support. We've got Pakistan, which opened up 6 routes, transportation routes going from Pakistan into Iran. Lord knows how many out of Turkmenistan. I'm sure there's some in Turkmenistan. And I'm sure that some are coming across the Caspian from Russia.
Yeah.
So, Iran is not blockaded to a significant point that is going to, cause the economy to implode, as U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent believes, wrongly. I mean, the guy, I find it astonishing that he indulges in these kinds of bizarre fantasies and delusions.
Yeah, and just to add to what you're saying, Pakistan's actually allowed Iran, the report came out an hour ago, a couple of hours before this show, they allowed them to use their ports as well. So now Iran can use Pakistani ports for their vessels.
That's Karachi principally, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. And then the other thing, to add to what you're saying, I was looking into this, and actually Iran's made $5 billion since the closure of the Strait. So, I mean, if Iran's been harmed, they're making a lot of money from this harm.
And I would take it that's more money. They probably made more money in the last 2 months than they did last year.
Yeah. I believe their GDP is only like, is it 30? It's varied from about 30 to $50 billion. So it's like, it's a huge amount.
Yeah. So they're, I don't want to minimize the damage that they've suffered from the war. It's more on the human front, but. The notion that the United States is so easily going to crush Iran, and Trump continues to spin this lie that Iran's been a real problem. It's been an adversary for all of its neighbors for the last 46 years. It's been fighting and meddling in their internal affairs. Just absolutely not true. But as we sound with Trump, truth. He is unacquainted with a thing called truth. It has trouble coming out of his mouth.
He is indeed allergic to truth, let's put it that way. But coming back to what you mentioned about the destroyers. So with the destroyers, you mentioned they have Tomahawk missiles. Just for the audience, like how much Tomahawk missiles does each destroyer have, and how many are there within the region? Because there was a report by, I believe it was CNN, which said that I think the U.S. has used up almost 50% of their Tomahawks within the region. What's your information on that?
Yeah, I think that the number of what's been used up is probably much higher. I mean, I know that's what they're reporting.
Yeah.
but I guarantee it. They reported, for example, that the Patriot missile battery that they've used up 50% of the PAC-3s. Well, that's sorry, they've used up close to 90%, 95%. I can take you through the math on that if you're ever interested. But these vertical launch systems, they can fire a Tomahawk, or they can fire. So if you're going to be used for offensive, you'd have Tomahawks. Defensive, you'd have something like the PAC-3. So the missiles that are on board the ship are there. They can be loaded with missiles for air defense or missiles for offense. So you've got, I think it's something like 60 tubes on the front of the ship, 30 tubes on the back of the ship. So you get 90. And, once you fire them off, you're out. And it's not like, run down to the main storage area in the ship and bring out some more and drop them in. No, it's not that easy. And they can't do it at sea. Go ahead.
And just for the audience, how much do you believe the U.S. has used in this first 39 days?
Of the Tomahawks, I would say they're down to about only 30% left, maybe 35%. I know the math with respect to the PAC-3s on the Patriots.
Yeah, you explained that to us before.
And there's no way they could say that they just, they're only down 50%. Hell, they were down 50% from what had been produced before the damn war started.
So basically, because I'm trying to for the audience, from the audience's perspective, if you were Donald Trump and Dan Kane is basically producing this plan for you, seems like what was discussed on Thursday. How would you would send 2 destroyers, for one vessel at a time? How would the operation work?
Well, they would sail, within sight of each other, but again, you got to say what are they going to hit? So the notion, it's not like Iran sitting out there with a physical toll gate, or the two Iranian vessels that are sitting there looking and threatening anybody that comes in. They've managed to control access to the strait by warning ships over radio, don't come here, or you have to seek permission, get clearance. And those that don't have clearance, then they get lit up with, like I said, they've got a variety of attack vectors. They can be attacked from underwater. They've got a drone that is guided on the surface. They've got small boats themselves that are piloted that carry sort of surface-to-ship missiles. Then they've got the regular conventional drones, and then they've got cruise missiles, they're called coastal defense cruise missiles, and then they have the short-range and intermediate-range ballistic missiles. So all you got to do is just, you warn people don't come in, they come in and without permission, and then they get blown up. So that's if the U.S. ships dare to go in that way to sail into Iranian waters and then start shooting there, because they're going to have to shoot at some Iranian targets. And if they shoot with Tomahawks, that will, I think they're going to try to, it's from the, if what Trump said is true, they're going to try to sail into the strait and see if they can make it all the way through. I just don't see Iran allowing that to go unchallenged. They will warn them if you do it. They're going to give them several warnings, and then if those warnings are ignored, the U.S. will proceed and get sunk.
But then that will result in immediate kinetic war, right? Because
Yeah.
the U.S. is going to start firing back as well.
No, the U.S. is the U.S. will knock out some more civilian targets. That's what they're going to try to. I think the military is deliberately leading, ignoring Trump's orders on civilian targets and just only going after military targets. But Iran will then fire back immediately at Israel and at U.S. forces. There's still some presence at Al Udeid Air Force Base. There's still a presence at the Air Force Base in Qatar. I mean, in UAE. So they've got this war will be back on and quite hot. That will probably, when that happens, that will probably finally wake up the international commodities market, which is completely out of touch with reality right now. They're only saying Brent. I haven't checked the price of Brent today, but it should be, if it was reflecting the actual price that people are paying, it should be up around $140, $150 a barrel minimum.
Well, people are paying, according to, I have a lot of financial experts I interview as well. People are paying like $170, $180, I believe.
Yeah.
With this announcement, I believe the futures is opening in 36 minutes, and we're going to have some financial guys on then, and I believe the numbers are going to fly based on this decision. So completely.
Yeah, see, like right now, the Brent crude is at 108.
But it's closed.
And, pardon?
The futures are closed, so it's going to open at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah. So, and then the West Texas Intermediate is 101. I mean, those numbers are not even in touch with reality, not at all. I mean, it's this is market manipulation at its worst. So, but we're starting to see here now in the States, the initially in the first 2 weeks of the war, the price of oil shot up. It went from where I live, on the 27th, the day before the war started, it was $2.54 for a gallon of gas. Then within 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, that it climbed up to $3.57. And then it fell back down like to 320. So it's been hovering around 320 until last Thursday or Friday, and then it's shot up. And in fact, yesterday, the place where I go to get the gas, it was $3.96. And then I pulled in today because I get the gas at this particular location. And it's like Sam's Club, Price Club, and they get a discount. It was they were changing the price. It went from $3.96 to $3.98. So and that's I get a member's discount. The real price of gas at the regular gas stations where I'm at of $4.29. So it's going to hit. If Trump tries this, I'm going to open the Strait of Hormuz gamut, and it ignites the new round of the war. We're going to easily see $5, maybe even $6 a gallon gas. And then, as my wife said, she went to fill up today. She said there's a lot of grumbling around the pumps, and we're in an area that was heavily pro-Trump. So you can only imagine it's much worse in the internal part of the United States, in Michigan, Iowa, Missouri, Illinois. Prices there are just much higher than they are here.
Are they blaming Trump? Because I get
Yes.
a mixture. I get some people blaming Trump, and I have some people blaming Iran. How is it in your area?
They're blaming Trump. Well, the majority are. So for the first time, the Democrats and independents, they were blaming Trump overwhelming, like 70, 80%. And now it was 55% of the Republicans are blaming Trump. So, he's shot himself in the foot. And, if he thinks he's going to get out of this with touching off a new round of fighting, he's in for a very rude awakening.
I've got another question for you before we go on to the peace plan. In terms of this kinetic aspect of what you're saying, I just want you to kind of highlight to the audience or even clarify, if what you're saying happens, as in what you're proposing, if Trump does follow through, you have American destroyers go into the Strait of Hormuz, you have the Iranians hit those vessels with drones or with various other mechanism that they can do so, then the Americans start firing back. Would they be able to fire back straight away, or would they wait? And the reason I ask the question is because there's going to be so many American assets so close to Iran. You're
Yeah.
going to have the aircraft carriers that are so close. You're going to have all the destroyers that are so close. How much of a risk is that? Do you think they'd fire back straight away, or would they retreat and then fire? Like, that's crazy. From a normie perspective, it makes like no sense.
Well, they're going to, they'll try to have some air support come in as well, but they're predicated on an assumption, which is, in my view, a false assumption, that Iran has fixed firing positions that are above ground and exposed. And the reality is, Iran's firing positions are not widely exposed. They are protected. Some are in caves that are, very difficult to hit with a bomb, even a cruise missile. You might be able to get it with a drone, but the U.S. doesn't have drones with that capability in that area right now. There's where Iran has a clear advantage on both maritime drones, both underwater, above water, and then the aerial drones. So, they're going to have to, I don't know what the military planners would do. I don't know if they're inclined to just send one ship to say, okay, let's not risk more than one. Let's not risk two or three. Let's take just risk with one. And when it gets hit and is actually potentially being sunk, what's the recovery? Who rescues them? So at that point, it would be the Iranian Navy would go out to rescue and take prisoner American sailors. And then Trump's got a real big problem, huge problem. And because now they got hostages. And you're not going to risk getting your hostages killed by stepping up military attacks on the areas where they're being held. So, I know that Trump said he's gonna make the run. I'm hoping that's just more of his bombast. He's notorious for that. But if he goes through with it, it has a likely chance of being catastrophic.
He's saying he's going to do it tomorrow. But Larry, another question for you is, how many sailors are there in a destroyer?
I don't know offhand. I could check real quick. The size of, hang on for a second. Let me double check. Size. I was going to say I'd say around 250 guys is my guess, guys and gals. But let's see what the.
Andrew, maybe you could put it in the chat. I've got a naval expert.
Yeah, 300 to 360. So.
Yeah, that's what he agrees. Yeah.
Yeah, so that it depends if it's the Arleigh Burke class. It's 300 to 360. If it's they got newer ones that are called the Zumwalt class. They're smaller. They go for about it says 140 to 160. So I guess it depends on whether it's an Arleigh Burke or a Zumwalt.
Interesting. So that will be a lot of Americans whose lives will be risked tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then I guess another question. Remember, Trump said that he was going to do this, I believe it was a month or two ago. And then at that time I had you on and you said, this is crazy. There's no way he's going to do it. Everything you're saying now, you said it then as well. You said all of these are going to be the risks and it's just not going to happen. And he ended up not doing it. So from Trump's perspective, I know you're going to say, I know what your answer is going to be. You're going to say he's crazy, he's dumb, he's foolish. But
Well,
I guess
no,
my
go
question to you is, what changed? What changed from then to now?
well, he's looking. He recognizes he's in trouble, and he's looking for an exit strategy. But he's also being fed false information that leads him to believe that Iran is weaker and more fragile than it actually is the case. You've heard Scott Bessent say, "Oh, we blockade Iran, and their oil wells are going to seize up because they will have filled up all their storage tanks, and they won't have anywhere else to put their oil, and those oil wells will collapse, literally physically collapse in on themselves." Well, that hasn't happened. It was supposed to happen like 3 days ago. But Besant had convinced Trump that that was the case. Also convinced Trump, all we got to do is put this blockade on and then apply some sanctions on countries that don't cooperate with us on the blockade, and then Iran's going to collapse. Again, they believe it, but it is simply divorced from reality. And you try to tell them that they don't know what they're talking about, they won't hear of it. And that's part of the problem. They will not allow dissenting voices to be introduced. That'll say, no, listen, you guys are thinking about this the wrong way. Another example was that they were spreading this nonsense that they didn't know who was in charge, that there were great divisions between the hardliners of the IRGC and the soft ones like Arachi, the foreign minister. A bunch of dummies didn't realize Arachi was part of the IRGC. He fought with the IRGC during the war with Iraq. So he's not anti-IRGC at all. In fact, it would not surprise me that the head of the IRGC and Arachi are friends or knew each other while in the military, when both were active. So this is just another example of the United States in its ignorance of these countries just going with the wrong information, and they've now convinced themselves that all they got to do is this little more economic pressure, a little more military pressure, and Iran's going to collapse. The crowd's going to rise up and throw out the mullahs. It's pure crap. That's all it is.
But in terms of Arakchi, I know he was part of the military, but if you remember when he was under President Raisi, the person who I believe was killed, by the way, but I know some people may disagree, but he actually removed him, and then it was Pezeshkian who brought him back. So does that not show some kind of more alignment towards Pezeshkian's politics as opposed to Raisi's politics?
Well, again, I don't know if Raisi fought in if he fought in the war. What I do know is when you look at Pezeshkian, Rachi, Ghalibaf, the head of the parliament, and then the Ayatollah Khamenei, all four of them fought as part of the IRGC during that war between 1980 and 1988. Khamenei was the youngest. He was 17 and when he enlisted in like 1987. He fought 87, 88. Pezeshkian was a medic. So he was actually drafted by the regular army, but he did most of his service with the IRGC. And so my point in emphasizing this is the West is trying to pretend that all these guys who are part of the IRGC are now at each other's throat. No, that's nonsense. It's a lie.
Yeah. Now, we've now got reports. This was, again, a few hours before we went live. I don't know if you saw this, but it was reported by Al Jazeera. Obviously, Al Jazeera is like Qatari media, but it was reported by Al Jazeera, The Guardian, also Al Arabiya to a more lesser extent. And they said that Iran had possibly proposed a 3-stage deal. The first stage would be the opening of the strait, the removal of the blockade, and various other things. I've got a lot of questions for you on that, but what's your overarching thought on that proposal?
Yeah, it's dead in the water. Trump's not going to accept it.
Why?
Because it would require them to accept Iranian control over the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. is not going to concede that. U.S. also is going to insist that the nuclear enrichment program has to be part of the deal, and Iran's not going to accept that. They're done with that. They've said, look, we are a sovereign country. We have a right under international law to enrich uranium. We are signatories to the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which Israel is not. And we allow ourselves to be inspected by the International Atomic Energy Agency, which Israel does not allow that either. So, they said, that's not open for discussion. We're a sovereign country, and we're going to enrich whatever the hell we want to enrich, as is our right. So that, right there is an impasse. They can continue to insist that the sanctions be lifted immediately and the frozen assets be unfrozen. And the United States isn't willing to do that. So then also the removal of U.S. bases from the region. Now that one has been done as sort of a de facto retreat by the United States because they've got hit so hard, as was reported this week by CNN finally, that most of the bases are uninhabitable now and not able to function like they were before. So there are at least 15 that have been hit and damaged severely. So on that one, it's just a matter of the United States agreeing, okay, yeah, we're not going to put our troops back in on those bases. But apart from that, the United States is not willing to make any of these compromises yet. Emphasize yet. But the day they're going to learn the hard way that the United States does not have a good military operation or option here that will give it any guarantee of success.
So one of the things, I just talked to Dimitri, we had two different opinions on this, so I want to hear your thoughts on this. So he felt like it was a good thing. I felt like it wasn't a good thing. So it was the alleged claim, and by the way, Iran just come out and denied it just now. I just read the news just while we were talking, because my team just sent me the news as it's breaking. So yeah. Iran has denied this, and they said that this wasn't part of it. But this was reported by Al Jazeera, Al Arabiya, and Western media. But the claim is that in stage 2, Iran had agreed, this was Iran's proposal, that they'd agreed to have zero enrichment for the next 15 years, and then to have 3.69%. What's your thoughts on something like that? If Iran was to agree to it, do you think that would be a good thing or not?
No, Iran's not going to agree to that at all, because, again, this is a question of sovereignty. They have had their sovereignty attacked repeatedly in the course of the last 47 years. And it's been the United States that's been in the region killing Syrians, killing Iraqis, killing Iranians, killing Afghanis. So Iran hasn't been out killing, I take that back. Iran was in Syria killing some Syrian insurgents that were Sunnis, yes. But that was at the invitation of the government of Syria at the time, because they were fighting Islamic extremists. The very extremists that the United States claimed it was fighting. But, so Iran in this, they're going to maintain their freedom and sovereignty as a country, and they're going to enrich whatever they want, because they use up to 20% enrichment is specific for medical research and medical isotopes. Yeah. So I don't see them surrendering that at all. This is, again, the whole issue of, Iran's got a nuke. That's been a pretext to try to destroy the Iranian regime. The goal is to destroy the regime and install a government that will be obedient to the West. That's what this is all about. It's not about whether or not they have a nuke or not.
So just to be clear, because I know you're saying Iran would never do it, but in the hypothetical situation where Iran was to propose this and agree to it, you think this would be a bad decision? 0% enrichment for 15 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I'm in agreement.
Yeah, I mean, because, again, it's predicated on a false assumption. It's predicated on the assumption that if Iran, can provide irrefutable proof that it's not building a nuclear weapon, that is not going to change the policy of the Zionists and the Zionist supporters here in the United States, the Zionists in Israel and the Zionists here in the United States. It's not going to change their attitude one bit towards Iran, because Iran's going to continue to support Hezbollah and Hamas and their quest to establish their right to inhabit lands that Israel has now claimed belong exclusively to Israel. So that as long as the fate of the Palestinians remains undecided, and as long as they remain a target of attacks, this war is going to go on. It's not going to stop, and there's efforts to destroy Iran are not going to let up.
Now, one of the things I've been seeing is the UAE before this was very negative towards Iran, but I did see one of the well-known Emirati female influencers whose name slips on my mind. I think her name's Rani or something. But she was basically today or yesterday talking about how maybe like what the UAE needs to do and the Arab nations is to accept that Iran and the Arab nations need to work together. And that was a surprise for me because she's a Zionist. She's very close to Israel. Why would they be making those type of statements? Is there a pathway to normal? Is that demonstrating there is a pathway to normalization?
Well, they need it economically in order to survive. So they made much of that. The UAE, unlike the Saudis and the Qataris and Kuwaitis, had diversified its economy. Well, how did it diversify? Well, it started building the very expensive real estate projects and enticing and tempting, the wealthy class around the world to come live in Dubai or come live in, let's see, what's the other? There's Dubai and then Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, so those two places. So the real estate market has sort of dried up. The other foreigners that had been flocking to the Arab Emirate has gone down. Now, some are starting to trickle back in, but not that many. Another area was finance. It became a center for global finance, sort of a mini London or a mini Wall Street.
Well,
Well,
with dark
that,
money, mainly.
huh?
Mainly with dark money, though.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's dried up right now. It had a major free trade zone at Jebel Ali port, and I think it's now was considered the second or third largest in the world, and that's dead. Nothing's coming in, nothing's going out. So on all the fronts where it tried to diversify, those areas of economic activity are barely ticking right now. So that's one of the pressures that's coming up, that they're going to have to. They're facing a financial crisis. Same, the Saudis not as much. Saudis got a little bit more flexibility, but the Saudis and Qataris are the ones sounding the most positive about strengthening relations with Iran, and basically abandoning the U.S. because look at it from their point of view. Being a vassal of the United States, what does that get them? It certainly didn't get them protection. It made them a target, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you know my view on this. I don't think Saudi or the Qatarian people from Qatar are going to change their perspective. They are so subservient to the United States of America. They're so entrenched in it. As you know better than anyone, Larry, the intelligences, the CIA and the Mossad are so incorporated in those countries. I think they fear that, like, for example, MBS fears that the day he decides to go against the United States of America, he'll no longer be the king of Saudi Arabia. So
Right, right.
So I don't think they'll ever change. And I think you know that better than everyone, right, Larry? Because the intelligence has been so incorporated into that country for decades.
Yeah, I mean, it's, go back to when Khobar Towers was blown up in 1995, I believe it was.
Yeah.
A good one of my good friends from the agency. He was the chief of base there, and and John Brennan was the chief of station in Riyadh, and Brennan sent out instructions that the CIA was not to do any kind of recruitment or collection of intelligence on basically Saudi support for the crews like bin Laden. Think about that. So because he knew Saudis were supporting it, and so they didn't want any reporting that would draw attention to that. And so they tried to blame Khobar Towers on Iran. It wasn't Iran. It was Al Qaeda, bin Laden, and going after concept of having the U.S. presence, because I think this was in Jeddah, is where the explosion took place.
Yeah, no, totally in agreement. And also, they were involved in 9/11 with the Israelis, and I mean, they've been entrenched for many years and decades.
Right.
For sure. So Larry, last question to you, and really always appreciate your time. On Mondays, based on what we're saying, if Trump goes ahead with it, the war's going to restart, right?
Yes. It will be pretty vicious. It'll be actually much larger, and I think you're going to see more attacks on Israel and the United States than you did in the first 5 weeks of the war.
One last question. I know that was the question.
No, that's fine.
There was reports that America had 8 missiles. I forgot what they're called now. The Dark something.
The Dark Eagle.
Dark Eagle missile. Can you let the audience know a bit about that?
The hypersonic. Well, they're not even sure that it works. Okay, so
What?
yeah. No, go read their. They've done some field trials and they've been iffy. And what I mean iffy, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So they are. They're looking at trying to deploy this hypersonic missile. And a hypersonic missile simply is, it travels at a speed greater than Mach 5, and it's maneuverable. Now, the Iranians have developed hypersonic missiles. As have the Russians. The Russians have at least 5 or 6 varieties of hypersonics, as do the Chinese. So this Dark Eagle, though, reportedly it costs like $41 million a piece, whereas the Kinshal, which is a hypersonic cruise missile that Russia has, it costs $6 million. So it's big, huge cost difference for the United States, and again, it's not even sure that it works. So,
But is it like that hypersonic missile? Is it better than the Iranian, Russian, Chinese version?
no, it's not. I'd argue it's not even as good because it's not even sure it can hit the target. So they'll try to test it. Maybe we'll see. But again, it's so damn expensive. It's so expensive it makes it almost impossible to use it.
I believe it's like 40 million or 44 million to produce one, right?
Yeah, 41. The number I heard was 41, but it could be as high as 44.
But why? So that's the reason they produce so less, is because of the cost prohibition.
Well, this thing has been. I'm an acquaintance of one of the project managers on this, and he was predicting 3 years ago, it's going to be out next month, and next month that kept coming and going, and they didn't have it. So it's just been 3 years since he promised they'd have it, and now it looks like they might have it. We'll see. But the United States is really operating, playing catch up. We are years behind Russia and even Iran on some of these technologies.
Yeah, that's shocking, and that's something we've discussed in length. Larry, thank you so much for taking your time out to join us. We always appreciate coming on. People need to read your Substack. I was reading it the other day. Sonar21.com. Go to it, read it, learn from it. Sonar21. And I know you don't use your X as much, but I have been tweeting out and telling people to follow your X.
Yeah, listen, I appreciate that, man. That's helpful.
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
Helping an old man catch up with modern technology.
No, we need you on X. We need you on X because you are a smart individual. You know what you're talking about. And so we needed to post more on there, Larry, so people can get to know you. But yeah, I'm definitely getting people on. I've got like quite a large following on X. And even now we've got 15,000 people listening live on X. So definitely we'll get people to follow you. We don't want you to grow on there for sure.
Great. I appreciate it, man.
Appreciate
Thanks so
you
much,
as always,
Suleiman.
Larry. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yep, we'll talk to you soon.
Definitely.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Guys, that was Larry Johnson. What a legend. We love Larry Johnson, one of our favorite people. Really love it. So knowledgeable. Like, I could talk to him. He's another one I could talk to for hours. Like, sometimes I'll be honest with you, when I do an interview, I get a bit bored, but with Larry, I never get bored. Like, I'm on it, I'm listening. The only time I'm looking down is if I'm tweeting, like, you know, promoting. But guys, like this video, comment on this video, let me know your thoughts. Larry thinks war's starting on Monday. War is beginning on Monday. This is a suicide mission. American vessels are going to be taken out. This is crazy. Let me know your thoughts. Like, comment, and every single person who's listening right now and on this video later, subscribe to this channel. Subscribe. Follow. Put notifications on. You need to go to this channel and put the bell and put all the notifications on, because you can see the timing always changes with these interviews. Tomorrow, we've got Pepe Escobar coming on at 1 p.m. Eastern. We love Pepe. Is another person we love interviewing. So 1 p.m. Eastern, we've got Pepe Escobar coming on. Watch out for that. That is going to be awesome. Appreciate all you guys. Someone just asked me. Okay, so they're saying, I'm just reading it because I just read someone in the comments asking when the debate with what's his name again? What's the guy's name? Rabbi Shmuley is. So he just messaged now, and he said he said Monday or Tuesday, so I'm probably going to arrange it for Tuesday because I've got no interviews lined up then. So just to let you know, likely that what debate with Rabbi Shmuley is going to be on Tuesday, just so you're aware. But if you're on this channel, this is why, because things change any minute. I know how he is. He might be like, oh, let's debate now. So everyone on this channel, I can't emphasize enough, subscribe, have your notifications on. Make sure you have your notifications on. Notifications on. Tomorrow we've got Pepe Escobar. We've got a Lebanese journalist. I'm going to arrange one more interview. I think I'm going to ask Anthony Aguilera. So that'll be 3 people there. And then Tuesday, we've possibly got the debate with Rabbi Shmuley. That's probably happening on Tuesday. That's going to be really good. If you're on the YouTube, subscribe. If you're on Substack, subscribe. If you're on Instagram, subscribe. Notifications on all these channels. I know the experience on Substack wasn't great because you could only see me, but with the team, I'll get that sorted. This is why I want to try it out before we do it, you know, going hard on the Substack and the Instagram. So I know they need to be rotated a bit. So we'll get those sorted out for the next show. Guys, appreciate each and every single one of you on YouTube, on X, on Substack. We're going to continue on the X space, so you can come there. On YouTube, we're going to be on the second channel. That's where we're going to be streaming the space. So come to the second channel for the streaming of the space. Much love to each and every single one of you. Appreciate you guys joining in on the YouTube.